Hello, and welcome to The Gardens, located in sunny... The Gardens is one of the largest combined zoological habitat and theme parks in the world. With over 72 thrilling attractions and nearly 11,000 animals in our care, we know that every member of your family will find something incredible each time you visit. But that's just the start of your adventure. To really see what the park has to offer, I'll turn you over to our top 2 guides. Take it away, boys!
Welcome to Thoughtspeak, a podcast dedicated to the weekly discussion of K. Applegate's 1996 book series, Animorphs. My name is Coleman.
And my name's Mitchell, the surly one.
Welcome to a new episode of Thoughtspeak, as I mentioned.
Yeah, back to the norm of the series. No more 300 pagers.
It feels kind of cold and lonely here, too. I mean, without Nate.
Oh, yeah, you know, it's back to just the two of us. If I have it within my power, I would get him back for the next book, because I know The Escape is a fantastic one. I've even started reading it since we've just finished The Unknown.
Yeah, I mean, Nate was a good addition, and I think the fans agreed. We had many an email and comment about how Nate was just on point. Most people were saying they wish he just would have talked more. I think he was a little reserved at being his first podcast and all.
Yeah, we had some positive feedback on the Reddit channel, and probably in the emails. I don't know, I didn't read those yet. But we'll be reading some of those Reddit comments towards the end of the show.
Yeah, so it's a shame to not have him. Maybe we will incorporate a full-time third guest host who will then become a normal host at some point.
And then a host body.
Yeah, just not in the plans yet. Who knows? We'll see.
Cross your fingers and hope for Nate for The Escape.
Yeah, keep sending us emails and Reddit comments. We can show Nate, and maybe he'll join full time and catch up to us and read up.
As of right now, the Andalite Chronicles has been online for like 5 days, I think, at the time we're recording this, and Nate has not yet listened to the episode that he was in with us.
Whoa! 5
days after the fact.
I can see that. It's a long episode to hear a conversation that you've already had.
Yeah, it's an undertaking, but I think if you're a real fan of the series, and a fan of you and I, you'll make time. You'll figure it out.
In contrast to Nate, I've listened to the episode 7 times up until this point.
Wow, dude, you're hardcore. You're playing Thoughtspeak Podcast on expert mode.
I don't mean to, but between editing the stupid thing and then listening to it overall to make sure it's all good, I really had no say in the matter. Although I will say I did listen to it a full time after all of that, just because I meant to listen to our new opening and everything. I just got caught up in the episode. So.
Oh yeah. The new openings and segues are so hypnotic. It's like we're being transported through a safari.
Yeah, on the air? I haven't really asked you about them yet. Have you?
I haven't heard them. I plug my ears every time I listen to the Andalite Chronicles episode.
Shut up.
No, they came out exactly as we'd imagined. I wasn't kidding when I said it sounds exactly like you're on an African safari, except it's obviously the Gardens. And you know what? I showed that to my wife, and she just did not get it because she hasn't read the books.
Yeah.
So that's one possible downside of it.
Why do you have? Well, it's not a downside because anyone listening to these discussions and reviews have read the books. So
I don't know, dude. There's probably like a 80-year-old grandma somewhere who's just getting into like podcasting because her hip granddaughter showed her how to use the computer and the Weber net, and she's just searching for random things. I want to hear a podcast about the dolphins, and she ends up listening to our review of The Message.
And then she just keeps on with the series just because she's
it keeps going. Oh, they do a new animal every
week. we sound like her nephew or something, so she feels bad if she doesn't listen to the newest episode.
That would be amazing.
That'd be great. Send us an email if you can figure that out, Dolores.
Magda.
Magda. Yeah, I like how they turned out, and it seems like I haven't gotten a ton of feedback on it from the fans, but what I have gotten back has been pretty positive. So.
Yeah.
Especially, I like how it fits. The only negative comment we got was it kind of, I can see how we introduced it with the Andalite Chronicles, and that's the book that has least to do with the gardens.
Right, yeah, it's the furthest removed from the gardens. That's a very good point. That is something we did not think about.
But luckily, you have just listened to it, the opening just now, and this book has a ton to do with the gardens, so it fits right in.
Oh yeah, very good point. You know what? This would have been a better episode to introduce the new intro. Really, I just felt like the Andalite Chronicles was a big deal. It was a big pivot point in our podcast, and so I wanted to change it up. So, deal with it. Anyway, speaking of which, you will hear more of those segues, since this will be the first episode that we have trivia, we have emails, and we've done a segue for every single section of our podcast now. So, you'll be hearing teasing
the full
segues.
That's what we do.
You're like a segue salesman.
Yeah, and there is actually interesting trivia for our podcast. There was probably another minute and a half of the opening that I cut out just to make it shorter, so we had a shorter of an opening.
Hey, save that for the trivia section, pal.
Trivia section for the book. This is trivia for the podcast. But the original opening went into like Cassie's mom and talking about different parts of the park and behind the scenes stores and everything.
He's so meta.
It was just too long. That's not what meta means. You
Shut
don't understand what meta means. It was just way too long. So, but yeah, we'll get past that. That's our new stuff. We hope you enjoy it. Keep sending us those email and comments on Reddit, telling us if you like them, if you hate them. We're definitely gonna mix it up and change the intros and segues every once in a while to be directly interwoven into the book series.
Right, yeah. And you know what? The podcast is doing pretty well. Our Andalite Chronicles episode has done probably the best so far out of any, first release episode.
It's weird to think that there's hundreds and hundreds of people out there who we haven't heard from who are just listening every week. And we just got a bunch of new people with our last episode.
Well, we do make it pretty difficult to get a hold of us. We've only got a Facebook page, a Reddit channel we keep promoting, an email address we keep throwing out there, a Twitter handle. I mean, we're really hidden.
We make it really hard for the fans,
We are the hidden.
Speaking of Twitter.
Yes, speak of Twitter. In 140 characters or less.
No, we have had some interesting developments on Twitter. I know Twitter was made to help you interact with people in a quick fashion that you can, type something off and forget about it. And it's led to a lot of people interacting with celebrities and, blah, blah, blah. People like that. Presidents even. And that's all interesting, good, whatever. But over the past couple of weeks, we here at Thoughtspeak headquarters have had some very interesting tweets retweeted and tweeted at us. From none other than Michael Grant and Katherine Applegate. Katherine Applegate, she just retweeted a mention of us, I think like last week or something.
Yeah,
that was a big
small
deal to
one.
me.
A small one.
Yeah, nothing crazy. She didn't listen to an episode or anything, as far as I know. Thank goodness. But
she's gonna put out her own podcast now, which is a review of our podcast.
That'd be amazing.
I think the review of episode 1 wasn't spot on.
Oh, the one where we gave her 5 out of 5?
Yeah, it wasn't good enough for her. She's on a scale of 10.
Yep. No, but that was really cool. I mean, we have, we're interacting with the authors of the books. I mean, these are our childhood heroes. No matter what we say about certain characters or certain books or how much we, lament certain aspects of the series, it was a big deal to even get an offhanded retweet from the author of a book series that defined my childhood. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. It's definitely awesome to, just know that they're aware of us. And I just pray to Jehovah that they're not actually listening to these episodes.
That and the marketing team of Scholastic. They're going to, sue us.
Oh, no. They're not even... They're not listening to our episodes. They're not even reading the books that they're doing the artwork for.
I'm sure a couple interns at this point have read the first 3 books.
I don't know.
10 years after the series.
I imagine Scholastic still has the same marketing team that they're all old 90-year-olds now. They're still doing the covers and not researching the books at all.
Yep.
No, by the way, that's a trivia thing for later in this book that recurring joke of ours is going to make a comeback.
Really?
Yes. We will be making fun of the marketing team.
Good. I love when we do that.
I do too. So yeah, that's all pretty exciting stuff. And it's an exciting book that I'm excited to talk about.
Yeah, it's an exciting time to be both a podcaster and a listener of a podcast dedicated to Animorphs. I think I'm not saying we're shaking anything up, but we're causing some discussion that wasn't there before. Is that fair to say?
I don't know, dude. Are you, like, reading this in newspapers, or what?
No, I'm saying, like, the Reddit community, there's forums, we're bringing more to the discussion of Animorphs where, discussion of Animorphs in general was starting to peter off there for a bit.
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't know. I guess we're doing a pretty in-depth talk, but I think that's also just because you and I are really narcissistic and we just love talking, especially about things that interest us, and boy, does Animorphs get us talking.
Yeah, so, okay, fair enough. We're done talking about ourselves and how awesome our podcast is doing. And
so awesome.
How amazing it is that you even have a chance to listen to us right now.
My life is so good.
So good. Let's go ahead and jump into our discussion of book number 14, The Unknown.
We are literally diving into the unknown. Let's go!
This section of the park houses one of the most extensive research libraries devoted to animal biology on the West Coast. Your guides will provide a thorough summary of any book that might catch your eye. Careful though, once you get them started, they'll never want to stop.
As I said, today we are talking about The Unknown, book number 14 in the Animorphs book series, in case you were confused on that point. So I'm gonna go ahead and read in the back, and then we will jump into the cover art and discuss how awesome it is. And not awkward at all. There's a new rumor in town. Someone has discovered an item that proves life on other planets exists, and they've been hiding it on a base called Zone 91, the most secret place on Earth. Cassie, the other Animorphs, and Axe, because he's still not an Animorph, already know about life on other planets too well. They also realize the Yeerks will try to access Zone 91 to find out if what's there will threaten their mission. So the Animorphs decide to pay Zone 91 and the Yeerks a little visit, but what they discover is not at all what they expect.
No, Axe doesn't become an official Animorph until book 18. Everyone knows that.
He's already become an official Animorph like 17 times.
No.
The actual logline for this book is never underestimate the power of a morph.
I know.
Which is proven in this book somehow.
A little bit, maybe.
Not really.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I guess. This is a book that, by the way, if you carry it around in public, you're going to get made fun of for having this with you.
It's a bad-looking book.
I don't know what's worse. The ugly, just green, blobby, cloudy, blobby green, or the girl turning into a horse on the front.
It's just not, I mean, the morphs aren't supposed to be attractive, I get that, but they could have picked a different way of her holding herself, or, maybe not elongate the face right away, so it looks super awkward and just...
Yes, you know like... what? That's the thing that the book covers don't do correctly, is that morphing isn't this, like, perfectly symmetrical, going from A to B. It's always like, bloom, your arm shrinks, and then bloom, your, beak
bone
shoots out of your face.
Pops out of your knee, yeah.
They...
Not to mention, this is Cassie doing it. She would do it in such a way that until the very last moment, she would look like a centaur or something.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And I think she does that at one point. It might not have been in this book, but it might have been in another one.
Yeah. So, it's just not fair. It's definitely one of the
as
worst
we continue to mention, the marketing team did not read these books.
I agree. And look at the inside cover for that purpose. It's Cassie running in a field as a horse, when this entire book takes place in the desert, for the most part.
Yeah, the drylands. This could be, outside of her farmland or something.
But why? Focus your inside artwork on that?
I don't know. Sometimes the inside artwork is, like, spot on, and I think, like, Katherine must have told them, like, make sure you get, the picture of all the Animorphs in the elevator going up the building. Like, the iconic scenes. And then these ones, it's like they didn't even care. They're just like, screw it, here's a horse in the fields, whatever.
Or the book with the crocodile cover where it's like just
it's
outdoor
the wrong
crazy
setting.
It's literally going against the grain of the book. It's plot.
Yeah. So they tend to screw up the covers. I can't wait until they retcon Tobias in his model. That doesn't happen, by the way, until like book 40 something, where they actually put the blonde-haired kid. They changed the model.
Why does Tobias look different?
Yeah, I'm sure some people thought that. I don't know. Well, anyway, this is book 14. This is The Unknown. This is the first book I ever, as a child, as probably a 4th, maybe 5th grader at the time, I took one look at this when this came out, brand new, and said, I'll skip this one. And I think that was right around the time where the internet was becoming a lot more of a thing, and, the message forums were existent. And I probably even went on the Animorphs, the actual Scholastic's website forums, and I read a spoiler for the book, and that told me that, yeah, it's all right to skip this one, because it doesn't add to the series. I'm not missing much.
Well, it's just a shame, because if the marketing team had read this book, they could have at least made a cool cover and inside cover out of the concepts in this book. You could have done a lot with that. Certainly,
this book has a lot of fun scenes. And
inside cover, okay, you do the horse front where she's morphed into a horse. You do that however you want. And just, have the little cutout where you can see the inside cover, but it's the same image as the horse.
Mm-hmm.
But the inside picture could have been the horse standing at a payphone with a phone to its head. That would have been awesome.
That would have been cool, but that would not have been Cassie.
Desert.
That would have been a different...
You don't know that wasn't Cassie.
Okay.
With all the time paradoxes in this book, that could have been Cassie with a yerk in her head.
Sure. So you want to get into this? Shall we actually begin talking about the book?
I don't know. It's pretty unknown to me how this episode will turn out.
Well, I can tell you how it starts, as it always does, with a recap chapter. And you know what? They're starting to do this. They've got this recap format kind of nailed now, to where they do it in one chapter, and it's not such a exposition dump as it is just a, this is who I am, this is our team, and we fight the Yerks. And then it kind of goes into, like, what the setup of this first scene is going to be. And in this case, it happens to be, Rachel and Cassie chilling out. I think they're at Cassie's place, and, Rachel's giving Cassie shit about her clothes again, as she always does. And we have Cassie's dad enter the scene, and it's always good when we get a little bit more of the team's family members included in the story, right? You'd say that's a good thing.
Yeah, especially Cassie's parents. Something about them is actually interesting. They have very interesting jobs, cool. And they have actually, like, their personality actually comes across more so than a lot of the other Animorphs parents.
Actually, this book, I would say, pretty well cements Cassie's parents into my mind, at least, as some of the cooler parental family characters in this series. I don't care much about Rachel's family, to be honest.
Yeah, Rachel's family's kind of dumb. I mean, they tried to hit some heavy divorce topics with her family and stuff, but
right, it was interesting, at least in the reaction. But
yeah, but Cassie's family actually feels like characters. They feel like they have personalities. Like they're not just parents because she has to have parents because she's young, especially from this book.
Yeah, and as animal lovers, as fellow animal lovers, I totally relate to them. I feel like I am already part of their family.
I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
At this point, at book 14, I don't know anything about Jake's parents. Nothing.
No, yeah, you got a very good point. All of Jake's stuff has been centered around Tom. That is it. Mm-hmm. That is the driving focus. That's a meat and potatoes of the Animorph series. Really.
Tobias's aunt and uncle, who aren't even a regular part of the series, are more fleshed out than Jake's parents.
Well, I don't know. We'll see when we get to that book that's so far having to leave town or something for.
So far, though, we already like, I know that his aunt's in a situation where she doesn't want him. His uncle's a deadbeat. I know more about his parents than I know about Jake's parents, or more about his aunt.
Well, we know that Jake's dad likes wrestling.
And we know a shit ton about Tobias's real parents at this point.
No, that's a good point. Yeah, we've spent a while with Tobias's extended family.
His immediate family. It's not his extended family.
Well, it's extended because they're out in space.
No, that's literally not how that word works. It's his immediate family. Oh, I want to say one more thing about the recap, too.
Okay.
It seems like the recaps are switching off back and forth between a style of getting them finished as quickly as possible right at the beginning, or stretching them out over the first few chapters of the book. Like you have story, recap, story, recap, or they do recap and then story.
Yeah, they've got a couple of methods to sort of dump the information that new readers might need. And, I don't particularly think one way works better than any. I mean, I guess if I had a choice, I would prefer that they just spent the first chapter or two focusing entirely on story and, they didn't need recaps every single book. But
yeah,
that's a tall order for the Animorphs series.
That's a lot.
That's a burden to bear, really, as a fan. Because every single time we pick these up, we've got to relearn about the Yeerks and the Texans and the Hork-Bajir and the Ged.
Jake's our leader, but he doesn't want to be our leader.
Jake and Cassie, and they love each other. Oh, it's sweet. So there's a lot going on.
Think of how crazy the series would have been if it was completely unbound by those rules.
It would be pretty epic, I imagine. So where were we? Oh, yes. Cassie and Rachel just chilling in the neighborhood. And then Cassie's dad comes in. And he tells him that Crazy Helen, a lady called Crazy Helen, called about a sick horse that's out in the drylands. And when somebody named Crazy Helen calls, you basically have to take that order.
Yeah, and they make a point of saying, we shouldn't call her Crazy Helen, but of course that's what she calls herself. And why is she crazy, Dad?
Yeah, well, I like when the Animorphs books do this. I like when they bring in these kind of quirky, weird, one-off characters. That's one thing the Animorphs series does really well. And actually, this book, I think, gives us two kind of decent side characters.
The only thing about this whole thing, or this whole really plot of this book, is the fact that they're really trying to have their cake and eat it with geographically where this town is located.
Oh, right, yeah.
I mean, we've got basically Nevada, 10 miles away.
Don't you know that the entire world is just an extension of Cassie's Woods?
Pretty much. When they say national park, that's every national park.
It's the entire continental U.S. Plus Alaska.
Well, I mean, this would make sense if, like most people assume, the series does take place in somewhere in California. But the only problem we're getting into now is that they regularly go to the beach, which is like 5 miles away from where they all live, and now they're able to just take a casual trip with Rachel out to Nevada, basically.
Well, yeah, I guess. The new area in question is the drylands, and I'm not entirely sure if they ever revisit this area in the series. I don't think they do, but I mean, it wouldn't be a stretch to think why not. Everything seems to be nearby.
This is all just a setup so they can do an Area 51 story. That's what it is.
Yeah, basically. And I'm okay with it.
Here's my question. Why didn't they use Area 51?
I don't know, because they like to be sneaky with their references sometimes.
Do you think that in the Cassie diary, a war journal, she actually wanted to throw people off on their location by saying Zone 91 instead of Area 51, and this whole thing takes place in Area 51? It
could have been. She could have been like, we cannot flat out admit that we were the ones breaking into Area 51, so I'm going to, just for memoir's sake, I'm going to relabel it in this.
I know this is not the time or place for this discussion, but, where else are we going to have it? So, the whole hiding where they are is dumb, right? It's dumb. It makes no sense.
I don't particularly mind it. It doesn't really impede.
I don't
the
mind
story
it.
Over.
It's a cool gimmick for the series, and obviously hiding their names makes all sorts of sense, and changing the names of certain people around them. Obviously, all of that makes sense.
Well, wait a minute. Let's be honest here. I live in Minnesota, and there was no way I was picturing this book series taking place in Minnesota. It just wasn't going to happen.
It's not even context clues. They're talking, if they're afraid of these journals getting read by Yeerks and finding out who they are, which is why they hide their name and hide their location and all that stuff. If they're actually afraid of that happening, it is insanely, it makes no sense to hide where you are, Because these events are things that the Yeerks have seen. These are missions the Yeerks were doing, and they knew where those missions took place.
Well, especially if you're writing about how you're going to school with Chapman.
Well, yeah, and they probably changed his name. They say they changed names and stuff. But if Chapman ever got a hold of these, which he's a high-ranking Yeerk, if a Yeerk's got a hold of this, Chapman would probably see it, and he'd be like, oh, yeah, I was talking to Visitor 3 in my basement secret lab when a cat jumped in and we almost took our daughter to get in. You know, this all happened to them. So Visitor 3, as much as he is everywhere, the Yeerks are, he was at all these places, and he knew when the Andalite bandits attacked. So, like, it makes zero sense hiding the location.
You know what? There's only one explanation. The books themselves that we have are not canon to the series. Think about that.
What?
That means they never actually write the journals. So these books don't technically exist.
What are you trying to say?
I'm trying to say that the kids never actually write the journals. These are just
But they
stories.
said, my name is Jake. You think he was lying? That was just some person? Some author fictionalizing this? What are you trying to say?
No, I'm just saying, within the continuity of the series, they're not actually writing these books that we're reading. Their actual journal entries are just like, went to the mall, saw Cassie. She said, what's up?
Oh, so you're saying... Okay, this is getting interesting. So you're saying that post-war, somebody took their actual war journals, which are written sporadically in different voices, say are much more in code. Some of them, like Marco's is completely like you got to read every third letter to get.
Yeah, dude, it's like in Full Metal Alchemist when the one alchemist wanted to disguise his notes, he wrote it as a cookbook.
Yeah, so you're saying after the war,
somebody had to decode and stitch together all the kids' journals of these individual incidents.
Oh my gosh, this is actually genius. So he took not only their notes, but he took the events from like Yeerk witnesses who have now morphed into humans permanently. He took accounts of other people who were at these events or people who have died, and wow, this is heavy stuff.
Yeah, I aim to blow minds. On
I mean, you could write an entire sequel series this way.
It would be like Lemony Snicket's Series of Unfortunate Events.
I never read those.
Well, you don't need to read them. Did you see the movie with Jim Carrey?
Yeah, but that wasn't.
Well, within that series, it is the character Lemony Snicket is he's the person who's putting together the story about the family, and so he's writing each book about the family, but all the stories take place about the kids.
Yeah, I mean, you could almost write another Animorphs series in the style of something like Robopocalypse or World War Z, where it's like documentary style. So
K.A. Applegate is Lemony Snicket, basically.
Well, no, she's a fictional third party who is piecing these together for historical documentation.
Yes, because she doesn't use her real name on it.
So to wrap all this back around, when we read a Cassie book and she's like, I totally like Jake, like him. That's like a 40-year-old guy being like, okay, how did she feel about Jake based on this and this account and the dead account of her parents? And
I've got one picture of the two of them together, and it's like, a school class photo with like 30 other kids, and they're not even looking at each other.
I love the idea of in general, of any book, of a unreliable narrator. So you could totally have something like that. That's why they never got together, because there was no love story there. That was something insinuated by whoever wrote these.
Wow, it's mind-blowing stuff. We're barely even talking about the actual story here.
Because everything we just talked about was more interesting than everything in this book. But sure, okay.
We're gonna have a lot of interesting theories, and that's just one of them throughout this. I've got another one here, and it starts off when Cassie and her dad are obviously going to go out to the drylands to meet with Crazy Helen to see about this sick horse that is apparently out there. And Cassie invites Rachel along, which, of course, Rachel's like, no, that's not fun. I don't want to do that. And Cassie makes the deal with her that, if you come with us, I'll let you pick out some clothes for me. What a fair trade.
Which is all you need for Rachel to jump on board. Like, say we're going to pick out clothes or we're going to kill someone and Rachel's on board.
Yeah. So that's her to-do list. So of course she's in then. They all drive out to the drylands. They say it takes a couple of hours, so who knows where it's at. And they pull up to Crazy Helen's trailer, and like I said, we get this pretty interesting character, Crazy Helen. And she's obviously, ranting and raving about various alien conspiracies. She's one of those kind of characters.
Yeah, you can totally picture a trailer with like a little UFO on top of it and tons of gray alien stickers on the side. And...
yeah, she's got like some kind of store or something. She sells. Yeah, you
see a lot of
trailer,
if you go to Nevada towards Area 51, or if you go to like Roswell, New Mexico, there's tons of these little shops by the side of the road really with alien stuff.
Turn that into part of their culture out there.
Yeah.
Well, she points them towards the what they think is a sick horse, and she's like, she makes a comment too. By the way, she says, "She's over there!" Crazy Helen yelled as soon as we piled out of the truck. "It's a big roan mare. She's acting all funny, like maybe she's been eating the loco weed." "Loco weed?" Rachel asked me. I shrugged. So my theory here is that Crazy Helen is a pot farmer. She's got wild horses roaming the land, eating her weed.
It's not even that far outside the realm of the concept of this book, and that totally fits Crazy Helen's character.
Oh yeah, because you're insane if you smoke weed.
No, but someone who would grow pot behind their trailer in the middle of Nevada while they're spouting off things about aliens. That's like something straight out of like a Hollywood blockbuster.
That sounds like somebody I'd want to hang out with. Especially after we get a detailed description of what's inside her trailer.
I want to party with Crazy Helen.
So Crazy Helen runs a little shop selling various knickknacks and, I guess, pot.
Which is apparently a front, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's a front for her real business, her loco weed business. Okay, so the everybody else goes off to look for this horse. And this is where the story gets a little weird, because this particular horse that's acting sick or funny is trying to use a payphone.
Yeah, it's picked up a stick or something and it's trying to dial numbers, and it's a great visual of it's for some reason I'm picturing it nighttime. I don't know if it actually takes place at night or not.
Well, it's just horses are such kind of silly creatures. I mean, really.
They're the creatures we inhibit a lot of. They're like dogs. We put a lot of human personality in them because for centuries we've been so close to them.
Well, it's weird because they don't have hands. Anything that doesn't have hands is weird to me.
That's a lot of things.
I don't really respect you until you evolve hands. Okay? So they've encountered this horse acting, very much not like a horse. And I think Cassie and probably Rachel are both skeptic of this horse's behavior right off the bat. And this is when Cassie's dad runs off. He's like, "I gotta go get Crazy Helen." Or something, I don't know.
He's gotta go smoke some pot behind Crazy Helen.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how her dad knows this lady.
So after he conveniently leaves the scene, Cassie and Rachel both spot a yerk crawling out of the horse's ear, or what they think is a yerk.
Well, one thing we didn't mention is that they were caught out there because the horse was acting strange, or we kind of mentioned that, but the horse is like swaying on the spot and looking sick and everything else.
Yeah, so, and you know what? I didn't catch this right away. My first read through, but apparently he was suffering from a snake bite.
Yeah, like a rattlesnake or something.
Right. But as soon as Cassie's dad is conveniently out of there, and they discover that this is probably a yerk-controlled horse, the girls are shot at by a bug fighter that appears out of nowhere.
Well, it's kind of worded nice, where it leaves it almost a little ambiguous. Like, it's a first-person narrative, so she thinks it's a bug fighter, and she thinks she hears something that sounds a lot like a Dracon beam, but it doesn't directly say it.
Yeah, and I guess that's because she, didn't actually see what it was. Exactly. It's kind of described as, bright lights suddenly, and then pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, so Cassie's knocked out, and when she wakes up, I thought there were some interesting things here. This is just an overload of pop culture references. She wakes up and she's in the trailer of Crazy Helen, and they just throw down every sci-fi reference they could think of. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Star Trek: The Next Generation, Stormtroopers, Wookiees, X-Files, Mike, Crow, and Servo and Gypsy from Mystery Science Theater 3000, Jane Fonda from Barbarella, Plan 9 from Outer Space, The Day the Earth Stood Still, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, and it says, and of course, 2001: A Space Odyssey. That had to be, I don't know what it was, but they just wanted to list off their favorite sci-fi things, except Plan 9 from Outer Space. No one actually likes that movie.
Yeah, but it's a popular sci-fi thing that people would recognize. So yeah, of course it made it in. The Applegates, the Grants, I don't know what you call them collectively, other than K. Applegate. They love their references.
Yeah, it's just funny that Cassie is the one who wakes up. So this is from her narration, and she wakes up and the last thing she says, she's naming all these sci-fi things. The fact that I don't think there's any 13-year-old girl in the world who knows what Mystery Science Theater is in the first place. Mystery Science Theater 3000. You
can chalk that up to awesome parenting.
That's true. But then also to say, and of course, 2001: A Space Odyssey.
She's a huge fan.
Yeah, I'm a sci-fi nerd who grew up with Animorphs and all these other sci-fi movies my dad was shoving down my throat. And I didn't really appreciate 2001 until I was in college, Oh,
right, yeah.
So,
well, I don't know. Maybe they broke character a little bit here.
Yeah, it was Michael Grant and Kay Applegate just being like, and this is the best of sci-fi.
Right. Well, not much else happens here. Cassie wakes up and is kind of spooked by a cardboard cutout, and Crazy Helen reveals why she wears a tinfoil hat.
Yep, of course.
So that's about it. And then, of course, we get our obligatory cut to the mall scene.
Where Cassie has to live up to her promise of going clothes shopping.
Yes, of course. And we've got Marco talking about just how awesome Zone 91 is. And this is, where we're introduced to this concept of Zone 91. Just because of Marco talking about it.
Yeah, in reference to where they were and the aliens and everything like that.
Right, yeah.
And this is the best part. Best part of this book. Tobias walks into the mall as a human.
Yeah, first appearance. Jeez. Tobias in human morph.
It's one thing for it to be the end of, the change where he's gets his human morph back. It's a whole nother thing for him to be walking into the mall on two legs. That's
what? Speaking of which, that reminds me. So, I don't know about you, but in my mind, I'm keeping track of where I would cut the seasons of the fictional Animorphs TV show that I'm creating in my mind. That's a cartoon, and it's awesome. Anyway, so the first season being, the first 7 books plus the first Megamorphs, and then season 2 starting back up with the alien, I believe, and then going all the way to Andalite Chronicles, I think. And then I'm not sure if I would continue this as part of season 2 or if I would start this off as season 3.
No,
this is not a good season.
I would agree with you besides the cartoon thing, which should be live action.
No.
Come on. And I'd also agree with you, except the Andalite Chronicles and Megamorphs, those
are the specials. They're the in-between seasons. But I think they could be the half-season point, too.
Even those, if you did animation, would need a sizable budget to have a higher quality and stuff. They would have to be made for TV movies or something. I don't know.
No. The thing about the Andalite Chronicles would probably be a 3-episode or 4-episode even special.
I would almost say those would need to be cut from a TV show or done specially somewhere outside. I don't know how I would do those. But point is, if you were cutting it up just by the main series, I agree with your timeline. But I put this book being the first episode of season 3. You leave the cliffhanger of season 2 being Tobias getting his human morph back.
Well, okay, fine. Yeah, this is the beginning of season 3. And then would you say that this will end with Megamorphs 2, and then season 4 would kick off with the David trilogy?
No. See, the Megamorphs 2 would be
We read Megamorphs 2 before Book 19, by the way.
I know. But Megamorphs, as I said just now, the Megamorphs, I don't know what I would do with those. Whether they'd be Christmas specials or what. But just talking about the main series, the Departure, number 19, would be a great season finale. That would be an amazing season finale. But it would be kind of weird to jump into the David trilogy as the start of a new season, but it would also be kind of awesome.
Book 19 would have to be the start of season 4, I believe. That would
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yes.
I'm saying book 19
You just said book
be a
19
good
was awesome. It would be a great...
season finale.
No, it'd be... No, because after...
No. Why would you say it would be a good start?
Because it would.
That's not a very good...
Because Megamorphs number 2 would come before it, and that would be like the season finale of season 3.
No, cut out all the stupid bullshit Chronicles and Megamorphs. I'm talking just the main storyline. Think about where you're ending it. So, book 18 isn't that great. I mean, it's good, but it's not like a season finale. And book 20 is the start of something. You wouldn't jump into that being the second episode. The departure where Cassie can't decide if she even wants to be an Animorph anymore, that's a big ending point. That's a season finale material. It's an amazing book. That's a season finale. That is not.
Well, I haven't read it, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, see, you don't even know what you're talking about.
I would still put it as the first episode of season 4.
That you haven't read it. It doesn't make any sense. You're talking from nothing.
Yeah, I know. Based on everything I know, I've made this decision.
You're retarded. That makes no sense. I don't even want to continue this episode. It's mad right now.
Well, we were talking about how cool Tobias is. And you know what? This is where Tobias shows up, and, you know, it's a pretty cool moment because he's in his human morph. And Marco is just still a insufferable little prick to him. He's just... He takes every chance he has to insult Tobias and just...
Well, we've already established, though, that makes Tobias feel more comfortable around them.
Have we?
Yeah, Tobias said that he likes, even though he's annoying sometimes, he likes that Marco makes fun of him because it makes him feel more like part of the group. And I think Marco's picked up on that, and that when Marco makes a joke about him eating mice or rats or, you know, whatever, that's actually him being nice to Tobias because he knows it makes him feel included.
I don't know, dude. I would almost say that he takes it a little too far in this book. Because it's in every scene. He's just a dick.
I know. He's 13, dude. He should be a dick.
I know. And you know what? I still love him, too. It's crazy.
Still favorite character.
It's an abusive relationship with Marco. So, yeah, I mean, they're hanging out there, and life is good. But, I thought this was funny, is that immediately after, like, making fun of Tobias and just being a dick, Cassie immediately starts, you know, describing all her friends, because we're still in this kind of pre-recap phase thing. And she just has nothing but nice things to say about Marco, even though he's just been a total dick.
Well, no, she says something like, he's always fooling around and joking and blah, 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 but he's actually, like, thinking forward and really smart and...
Yeah, so she covers for him.
Yeah, maybe Cassie has a thing for Marco.
Tobias doesn't even get an awesome comeback line for Marco or anything like that. His next line is just, "So, what's up?"
Yeah, because he's so over it. He doesn't care. He knows that Marco's just thinking his best interest in mind.
Whatever. Marco feels threatened because Tobias has a human body back now, which makes him an open prospect for Rachel. So he's like, oh my god, I gotta step up my game and start making fun of Tobias more. I gotta show off in front of Rachel. That's what it is.
I bet in the first book, when Jake saves Tobias from getting his head swirlied, I bet Marco was one of the guys swirling.
Yeah, that's right. It probably was.
Hey Jake, what's up?
Or Marco was like standing there watching.
Videotaping it.
Right. Well, regardless of
Cassie,
your feelings about Marco.
Yeah, Cassie tells everyone about Zone 91 and the horse that's tied to the Yeerks, and Marco continues to be addicted to Tobias.
Right. They basically just kind of talk about, you know, why Yeerks would even want to control horses and what the point of that would be. I don't get... This was actually a question that I'd always had about the series, and because I'd skipped this book, I apparently never found this out. I always wondered why Yeerks didn't use other host bodies. Because, you know, I mean, they could put Yeerks in tigers and then have a whole army of tigers.
They say specifically there's only certain animals they can even try to fit in. Because it's not even a matter of brain size or anything like that. It's also, there's probably some connection to how smart and or what kind of brain it is, how big the ear canal is. I mean, there's probably a lot of factors.
I guess, but in a series about morphing, it seems like if you've got the ability to take over control of a body, it's kind of similar to morphing.
Yeah, but that's the heroes. You don't want to pit Superman against, in the first comic against his Bizarro version that has all the same powers as him. That's fun.
Exactly what I want to see.
No, you want to have him face Lex Luthor, who's his complete opposite, and that's why he's his main villain. The Yeerks are their own entity. They have their own spaceships and weapons and how they interact. You don't want Animorphs versus Animorphs until you get to the amazing David trilogy where it's Animorphs versus Animorphs.
Right, yeah, exactly. Well, as they point out, I think, or at least they make a good point to show that animal host bodies are just awkward to Yeerks now because they're so ingrained in human culture and human society. So when they are in control of horse bodies, they act awkward, and it's noticeable.
Well, it's not just humans. They're just used to being able to control sentient creatures, which have a certain level of intelligence. Being an animal is boring to them, and they don't like it, obviously. It's
right, yeah. They definitely don't, have a good time with it.
A Yeerk needs to, when controlling a host body, a Yeerk needs to be able to constantly stream obscenities and dominance, sounding things to the host to really enjoy the experience. And
right, yeah. I can imagine a Yeerk trying to overlord over a horse. Fear me, creature, for I control your body now! The next move the team decides to make is to do a flyover of Zone 91, and only a couple of the Animorphs are able to go. And conveniently, it's Cassie tagging along with the love triangle forming of Tobias, Rachel, and Marco.
Well, it's not only that a few of them can go, it's that they have some things to do, sure, but a lot of the Animorphs aren't taking this completely seriously.
Yeah, which I find it funny that Jake is the one who's not going.
Yeah, they don't honestly believe that a bug fighter shot at Cassie and Rachel. Like, they think they might have imagined it. And even Cassie and Rachel are doubting themselves a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, and it's only because they didn't directly see it. But I think to everyone else, it's pretty obvious as to what is actually happening. We get a cut to the next day where they're in school, and it's kind of a funny little scene here with Cassie and Rachel in school, and it's just Cassie being crapped on by all the guys of their school who are kind of hot for Rachel. There are at least 3 examples of guys being like, "Oh, what's up, Kathy? Oh, and Rachel's over here. Rachel, can I carry your backpack for you?"
But that's not them specifically being mean to Cassie. It's just when this normal, looking girl is walking next to the hottest girl in school.
No, that is not true. Because one of the guys is like, "Oh, Cassie, yeah, you look different. Did you gain weight?" Boom! They are shitting on Cassie.
Did you gain weight? I don't know.
So Cassie gets shat on while Rachel is lifted onto a pedestal.
Carried down the hall like Cleopatra in the days of yore.
I think that happened in one. That should happen. That should be in a book. I want that book.
Yeah, but Jake shows up and he's like, "Hey, Cassie, what's going on?"
Oh yeah, Jake shows up, just in time to give her the old wink and a catchphrase. Well, not exactly a catchphrase, but it's like a line from a movie, basically.
Yeah, but the way Cassie's having her day, I'm sure he said something in real life. I'm sure he said something like, "Hey, Cassie, have you stayed the same weight?" or something. That's his big compliment.
No, it's kind of a cute little moment, really. If you really, really get down to it.
As opposed to when she gets to class and Marco starts giving her a bunch of over-the-top compliments, and she finds out, just to make her day complete, that Rachel paid him to say nice things about her new outfit.
Well, and it's funny because Marco doesn't even deny it. He's like, "Yeah, Rachel paid me."
He tells her as quickly as possible to make sure she feels as bad as she could.
Yeah, that's just another reason why Marco is awesome. He just does what he does,
After Cassie's had basically the worst school day of her career, they go back to her barn. We got the classic Animorph barn meetup.
Right, yeah.
Between the people going to the drylands. It's not everybody.
And the obligatory bird morph flight chapter.
Oh yeah, where Tobias makes sure to talk about sweet thermals. Sweet thermals, bro.
Caught some sweet thermals over by the drylands. Thinking about hitting them later.
So they fly over the base, they land and demorph behind just some outcropping of rocks or something. And they decide to have a little chat. It's chatting time. We need to rest between morphs all of a sudden.
Oh, yeah, I thought this was kind of weird. They are demorphed behind these rocks and are immediately found out by guards. It's just immediate.
Yeah,
it's like they had no time to waste in transitioning scenes.
Well, you could assume that the guards are on alert and they're actually patrolling or something, and they see all these birds land, which they don't equate that to people, but they might see that as, well, what are these birds attracted to over near those rocks?
Yeah.
And
it's important to mention that as they were flying over the base, they did see, a bunch of horses that could possibly be the controllers.
Yeah, just a bunch of horses walking all over this base.
Yeah, I know. They just let them roam free. No control whatsoever. Wild
horses. They're not trained horses. They're wild horses. Mustangs.
Well, they could take some sort of precautionary measure. I mean, a fence?
Why? But why would they need to? They're horses. They don't do anything.
Why not have a fence?
Why? I'm sure they have a fence, but they're just horses. They probably walk in through the front gate. No one gives a crap.
I think a military.
You can't tame these wild horses. I live in Texas now. All right, I'm one with the horses. I know how they are.
Sure.
Can't tame this.
Yeah, so they're behind this rock. Oh,
they immediately get caught.
Before they get caught, there is kind of a little funny scene where Marco's again being sort of addicted to Tobias, but he gets his comeuppance as a snake crawls up next to him. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, he gets all freaked out like a little girl.
Yes, and then it leads to one of the better quotes from Tobias. I'll see if I can find it real quick. It is,
I'm out, bitches!
I will protect your butt from snake bites, Marco, Tobias said solemnly.
That's a good quote.
That is a really good quote. Tobias talking about Marco's butt. There's some fan fiction about that on the internet, I'm sure.
You joke. I've read that fan fiction. There's like 37 chapters of it, and it's constantly being updated.
What? It's ongoing?
I've told you about this before.
Ongoing saga?
I don't want to embarrass the guy or girl. I can't tell if it's a girl or guy.
It's Kate Applegate.
No. There is a fan fiction right now that is easily findable by looking at the Facebook Animorphs page because they're constantly posting new chapters. But it is a love triangle specifically between Marco and Tobias. But Rachel comes. It's post-war. Marco and Tobias are back on Earth. Marco and Tobias are discovering a love for each other they never felt before. And then Rachel comes back, and they turn it into a polygamous relationship.
Well, you got my attention.
Whoa. I have your attention. Or I have your curiosity. Now I'm going to get your attention. Not only does this love triangle exist into this polygamous relationship, but Tobias has a Mark Ruffalo morph that he uses on certain specific sexual occasions.
Oh, that is just pandering now. Come on.
100% is pandering.
That is just pandering. Next you're gonna say, oh, and Marco happens to acquire Dennis the Menace.
Nope, it's specifically Mark Ruffalo, and Tobias has it.
Mark Ruffalo?
I'm not even joking. I'm not joking. This is a real thing that is being updated by a real person right now.
I'll give it 5 chapters.
I've read 3 chapters. I'm not gonna lie. Just to see where it's going.
Interesting. Very interesting.
I don't think I like it.
As soon as they're caught, there's really nothing they can do. I mean, they're found out, and it's a very bizarre situation, especially for the military people, taking them into custody, because it's like these kids in spandex shorts and no shoes just turned up in the middle of the desert.
Yeah, and this is a good point real quick to talk about. So far, the concept of this book, this whole focus around aliens and Zone 91 and Area 51 and all that sort of thing, really good. Really good concept. It's really cool. I like how it's jovial and how it's going and how it's all centered around, the real life mythology of aliens versus the actual alien universe that this book series has paid tribute to and built up. So far, really, really cool. And the fact that they got caught on Area 51 or Zone 91's, property or territory, it's just leading into a lot of those tropes of movies and TV shows that have done something like this. So, big fan so far. All on board. Especially this part, the cleverness of Marco and how they're being interrogated, and Marco keeps making jokes about, like, where are you guys keeping the aliens? Where are you doing this? Super clever, because Rachel and Tobias, or Rachel and Cassie.
Yeah, Tobias got away. Tobias flew off. He's still
he flew off like a coward. Rachel and Cassie, they don't get it, but they catch on that Marco is, making these jokes to make them seem like just a bunch of stupid teenagers who wanted to see some aliens, because if they knew that they were there for a mission or something serious, there'd be a lot more than just calling their parents that's going to happen.
Right, yeah. And, well, they give the captain, this one-off character named Captain Torelli. They give him fake names and phone numbers, and the names are kind of humorous.
Oh, yeah. You got
Fox
Mulder? Fox Mulder, Scully, and
Cassie goes by Cindy Crawford. That was the best she could come up with.
Yeah.
Under the pressure.
And the guy buys it because he just doesn't know pop culture that well.
Well, of course, yeah. So as soon as he leaves them alone, I like this part here because they actually talk about, like, what morph they should use to escape this situation.
Yeah.
They consider their options since they have a couple of useful bug morphs, which nobody really wants to resort to bug morph, but it's just one of the most useful, especially for making their escapes.
Yeah.
And they decide on Cockroach, which beat out Fly.
Yeah.
They didn't want to do Fly.
Even though they generally have a pretty good time whenever they go Fly, but it's a little more disorienting and not as useful.
You know what? I can't even believe that at this point in the series they are still bringing up Ant. Because somebody always has to be like, we could go Ant. And then
you have to.
They do it just for everyone else to cringe.
You have to bring it up because it's one of the morphs. They only have so many morphs at this point, so it's just an option.
I know. I'm assuming when, book 43 rolls around, we won't still be hearing the ant morph joke.
Yeah.
The recurring ant morph shudder.
Yeah. But, so they use Cockroach Morph to get out of here. They escape out the door. And once they make it outside the building, Tobias swoops in. And he's like a cockroach carrier at this point.
He's wonderful with his swooping ability. Aside from a couple
dropping
of
Cassie.
Slip-ups, like right now, where he drops Cassie in Cockroach Morph.
Didn't, like, 3 books ago, he dropped Jake?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
I think he did. Yeah, because the book where...
he's really making a career out of dropping Cassie. Because remember in Megamorphs 1, he dropped Cassie.
Yeah. Yep.
So Cassie ends up getting run over by a tank.
She's dead, out of the series, blew all our minds.
End of book 14, The Unknown.
That would be great if you went to go pick up your new Animorphs book, and it was like only 2 chapters long, and you're like, what's going on? And just one of the characters died. It was like a choose your own adventure, except you can't go back. And like the narrator died. Like if they had a hardcore scene like when Jake was in Cockroach Morph in that secret meeting, and he got poisoned. Like, what if you just had 3 pages of Jake dying, and then he died, and it switched narrators? That would be hardcore. Be pretty
interesting. Although, foreshadowing, that does happen in a book.
Well, it happens in, like, Megamorphs book.
Yeah, I know. Megamorphs is where they get creative, though.
Megamorphs, I will say it to this day, Megamorphs, is it 3? Yeah, it's 3. Megamorphs 3, where they go back in time, and almost everyone dies horrible, gruesome deaths. Best of the series.
It's pretty sweet. Cassie manages to survive getting run over by a tank, luckily. And the entire group, of course, gets to retreat and demorph, and things are good, and we get a bit more plot with the horses because they happen to run into this group of horses that shares a very odd trait. And, I like how Animorphs not above just making poop jokes. In fact, I dog-eared one page that was when they first arrived on the base. And they're talking about how they're looking around the base and they're noticing all the horses. And then, let me just read this little part. Then suddenly, plop, 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 the horse began to do what horses do, if you know what I mean. That horse is taking a dump, Marco whispered. Thanks for pointing that out, Beavis, Rachel said. We wouldn't have noticed without you. Horse patties, Margot said. Prairie pies. I mean, the Animorph series is clearly not above poop jokes, so that's fun.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Right. So these horses are strange because they are modest about this, because one horse starts pooping, and the other horses kind of like laugh, like horse laugh. Which I'm just picturing. I'm picturing it as a cartoon, and it's hilarious to me. But this one horse feels all modest and like walks off because the other horses are laughing at it.
Yeah, it gives them a clue that they need to, follow up on this whole horse thing. If they weren't believers yet of Yorks being in horses, this whole scenario has made them
tip the scale. This is a convenient happen-uponce that, kind of happens in these Animorphs books sometimes, where they'll escape a bad situation only to conveniently be put somewhere in the right place at the right time to get, the story moving.
So I'm going to do something that we've never done before here on Thoughtspeak. And it's possibly a controversial move.
No.
But let's see how you react to it. So they go back to Cassie's barn, and they all talk about needing horse morphs. Can we just say that they go to a racetrack and it's ridiculous and dumb and the whole scene is stupid and they get horse morphs, and then we can continue on with the plot? Because we can talk about this whole section.
This is I thought this was a fun scene. It's stupid, I'll give you that. It's stupid, but there's some genuinely funny parts here.
It is actually jarring to the plot.
No, this is funny. Okay, I mean, I won't go into great detail here, but at least let me defend this scene.
I have one thing to talk about in this scene, but yeah, let's speed through it, because I think it's just
I'm fine with that. But yes, like you said, so the group is like, we need horse morphs now. And
where are we going to get horse morphs?
Even though Cassie has a horse morph, she's like, yeah, I'll come with. And everybody goes to the racetrack, which is, that's the place. That's the place where you go. So that they can get different horse morphs. Right away, they fly into a stable, and they start demorphing inside the stables, and Tobias, fails as a skycam, because he flies off right away, and doesn't warn them to the two old men that are in the next stall, who immediately pop over and see the team demorphing. And this is a dicey kind of thing that the Animorph series does, where it, mixes in ordinary civilians, and they see the kids morphing, and they see Axe, and it's like, it's pretty risky stuff. But I thought this was really funny here, because they're trying to hide Axe from these old people who are asking all these questions about it. And the one dude's like, "Why are you hiding that horse?" And he sees that he's blue, and he's like, "Why is that horse blue?" And the best that Cassie can come up with here is to say, "We like blue horses," I said lamely. And then it goes on, "Someday all horses will be blue," Jake agreed. They're just so, we don't give a shit about they're really not thinking things through here.
In what world is Axe even half morphed and still be able to pull off a horse?
Well, it's because they're standing in front of him and he's got his back turned
huge.
To them.
You can't
No, I know that. No, he could. No, they could block him slightly, especially if it's dark in there.
He doesn't have an almost kind of horse head. It's not like he has a human head where a horse head should be. He has an upper body sticking out of the front of where a horse would have a head. And then a head on top of that.
This is, like I said, this is kind of a problem that the Animorphs books do, is they tend to have these scenes that happen in public that seems like they should be found out by controllers. But we'll give it a slide because it advances the plot. So anyway, it starts into this whole thing with they're running through the stables, and they kind of all split up and do their own thing. And this is a good moment for Cassie, too, because we get a little bit of Cassie character development, actually, where Cassie, who at this point has not really been a fighter unless she's, in her battle morph. We have this point where they're just about to run away from the people, and somebody actually grabs Cassie's ankle, and she says, "I looked down. It was some teenager who had my ankle. I got one of them," he yelled. "I didn't want to kick him. I didn't want to hurt him. He was just a guy, probably not a controller. I got this one. I got this guy." And Cassie's like, "Guy? Excuse me, guy?" And so she kicks him then. And that's just like a great development for Cassie, who so far has been a pacifist and is somebody I could not imagine kicking another human.
Well, so far, no one's called her a dude either. I mean, that's...
Well, the one guy at school called her fat.
Well, he just thought she gained a little weight. Could have been good weight. You never know.
Right, well, anyway, everybody ends up acquiring their horse morphs, and Cassie gets this famous Minneapolis Max, and is shoehorned into a horse race that she wins because why not?
Well, and the only thing I want to say about this is that so far this book has, I would think, it's been written in a more interesting way than we've ever seen Cassie written up to this point. Is that fair?
Yeah. Oh, it's so much more fun than The Secret.
The Message is a good book.
The Message was a great introductory book, I think, for her.
Yeah, but this is a more relaxed, well-written version of Cassie than we've seen so far. Really,
and this is kind of spoiler in my review, but this is where I feel like Cassie really comes into being a more full and complete character.
Sure, except for the scene where she puts the entire world at risk by continuing to talk.
Spoilers, we'll get to that.
No, I'm talking about this scene right here.
Oh, why?
What the fuck?
She's won the. It's great. No, it's a great triumphant scene. She wins the horse race, and she.
This scene right here is the one exception to this book being a great Cassie book, because she starts thought speaking to her jockey, the guy riding her in the race. And the first time she says she does it because she's just so worked up trying to win this race and all the instincts and emotions running through her. I can kind of understand that. Just, it's a fluke. She talks to him and she's like,
well,
stop riding with her.
A lot of them thought speak to people accidentally.
But then she talks to him like 3 more times. Just, she knows what she even mentions how she knows she shouldn't have done it the first time. She continues to talk to him and thought speak to him.
Hey, Rachel talked to the kid Tyler when she was rescuing him,
and she was wrong. This is not that. If we're taking this series seriously, even though this is a fun book, if you talk to people, you're putting the entire human race in jeopardy.
No, and every Animorph is guilty of that crime.
Sure, but Cassie specifically here does it intentionally 3 times. It's not an accident.
Well, still, she wins the race, Coleman. It's a triumphant
Who cares?
Get on board.
There's no even reason to win the race.
Get on the Cassie train, baby.
I'm on the Cassie train. I'm not making fun of her just to make fun of her.
This gives us a great running gag for the rest of the series. Or not series, but well, maybe series, I don't know. Definitely for the rest of the book.
Of what?
We'll go right here, because the next scene is the group flying back out to the drylands. And we have Marco trying to convince the group to make money off of betting on these horse races by cheating and morphing into the horses. It's very reminiscent of Back to the Future.
Yeah, it really is, yeah.
And they fly out to Zone 91, and they, hook up with these modest horses again, and they follow them inside the base, and everyone's walking around in horse morph, and it's like super weird, and I don't know, it's funny. And I thought in a TV show format it would be funny. Yeah, I mean, there's maybe a few too many of these flying conversations in this book, but it makes sense everywhere they're flying to. Yeah, I will give you that. It is kind of a slow-moving book. They could have condensed some of these visits out to Zone 91. Like, they didn't really need to go to a racetrack and get horses. They could have acquired the horses out in the desert and then gone back, like, without some big, couple travel
that
scenes. Is a very good point. They could have flown to find some, like, real feral horses. That would have been... I would have much rather had a scene where... Here we go. Here's Cassie's taming wild horses. Yeah, we just got an email about how we would change the books and wanting to hear more of that. So here's what I would do. Oh, okay. Instead of going back and doing the racetrack and the seagulls and that whole thing they've already done before, you have them get caught. They escape Zone 91. They go further out into the desert. And you have a whole scene of each Animorphs, almost like the Griffin scene from Harry Potter, where they're trying to tame the Griffins. Or not the Griffins. I'm going to cut that. Hippogriffs, yeah. Bigger fan. But you have a whole scene of the Animorphs, one by one, trying to approach these horses, and they're too wild, they're too fast, and then you have some huge character development of Cassie really showing her knowledge and skills and being able to approach a wild horse and acquire it. When she busts out a lasso and straight up wrestles the horse to the ground.
I'm saying you could have had a
That's
scene where they
character
acquire
development.
horse morphs that's much more in line with the themes of this book. Rather than going to a Kentucky Derby for some reason.
I guess so, yeah. They could still be a lot smarter with the way they go about acquiring animals. I will definitely give you that. Although, like I said, this racetrack chapter, it was fun.
I didn't like it.
Not a fan. Well, anyway, everyone's back out at Zone 91. It's good times walking around in horse morph. And it's funny because the horses start speaking this language, this alien language that Axe identifies as Galard.
Galard.
Yeah, so horses apparently, these Yerk horses got the discount translators of the universe.
Yeah, these speech synthesizers, Axe says.
Yeah.
But they're not good ones. They're not like universal translators. They can only speak this basic language, Galard.
Yeah, they're like the Kmart.
Yeah, it's this universal language that is basically used for diplomacy or bartering throughout the galaxy. And
Axe kind of translates a little bit for him and tells him what's up. It's just basically that they're looking for something on this base. And
I'm glad we finally got a subject that Axe stayed awake for in class.
Oh yeah, I know, finally, right? He knows about Galard. And he's gonna know a little bit more in the Escape as well about the Lyrons coming up.
Yeah.
But anyway, I just started reading the Escape tonight, and I'm so excited about it. They're wandering around on base. They decide to split up into two separate groups to follow the Yerks, and they follow these horse controllers around the base, and we get more information about just what's going on there. And it kind of looks like a boring base where nothing really is going on, so they're just kind of very, very confused until they charge into this guarded hangar, basically.
Yeah,
and,
the Yerk horses are specifically talking about a mission, and we should just do this. We should do something. Blah blah. Animorphs don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
But they start congregating around this one hangar. And once the doors of this hangar open, and it's specifically guarded by a bunch of guards, the first group of Animorphs / Yerks charges these doors, and then Cassie and them charge with their group. And the humans have no idea what's going on, and once they start to be like, hey, maybe we should stop these horses are already in the hangar.
Right, and this is where kind of an important note, I guess. I didn't think much of it at the first time I read over it, but Cassie notes that there is a sign-up sheet for a field trip, basically, to the gardens.
Except she doesn't notice this now. She notices it earlier when they were captured.
Oh, was that? Okay, that was a while ago.
We just didn't mention it.
I forgot to mention it. I knew it was one of the times they went to the base.
Nope. Yeah, it was the first time.
And anyway, they end up in a very kind of confused, sort of jumbled scene here. They charge into this base and they see this secret thing, and we don't get a very good description of what it really looks like.
Yeah, it's like a cave, or it's like a smallish kind of room thing you could get into, and it's got some weird device on the wall.
I imagine it looking like the Allspark cube, just larger.
And with an opening?
Yeah.
I might be biased, but I see it as just this big urinal.
Oh, well.
Not urinal, but like a big...
outhouse?
Yeah, like an outhouse or something.
Oh, what if it was just like a rectangular outhouse?
Yeah.
That'd be pretty funny. Spoilers, jeez.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, they see the secret, and everybody is confused. And this is when they get kicked out by the guards, and they're all leaving the base, disappointed horses, sad horses. And Axe is just about to let slip what it actually was when Bugfighter appears out of nowhere, cuts him off. I hate when the books do this. Why can't a character just finish their sentence ever? Guys, I was about to tell you it's a toilet. He couldn't.
To be fair, it's Axe, and he's timid still around the humans and all that.
I guess, but valuable information, whatever. This is a Bugfighter appears, and who should, of course, walk down the ramp, but Visor 3.
I've made my peace with Visor 3 showing up every single time. Obviously, we're pretty early in the invasion, and there's not a lot of these missions and stuff going on. And Visor 3 is directly, and he's directly overseeing the Earth stuff. And the Earth stuff continually gets messed up by the Andalite Bandits, so why wouldn't he go on every single mission?
Yeah, he's got even more reason, I suppose. He's not getting any smarter, though.
He's not. He's not any smarter than when he was Subvisor 7.
Right, yeah. Subvisor 32.
Yeah.
Because he, goes to interrogate his horse controllers here, and he just gets pissed off and ends up killing the one in charge, which is sad face.
Yeah, I actually didn't think about that. Like, when they were doing it, I was like, his tail blade goes to the horse's neck, and I was like, oh, they did that because the books don't want to go overboard and kill a horse. And then he kills the horse.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, he straight up kills his horse. And then he's like, oh, I'm so angry, and now this guy's dead. I gotta worry about this.
Sir Gregor Cleveland over here.
Yeah, well, he tells, the other horses they've got to go through with their backup plan and figure out what this thing is, or he's going to kill the rest of them.
Yeah, and he mentions, making a few select employees of Zone 91 controllers.
Yeah, he hints that they've got other plans here. And he's also very confused as to why there are all these other horses around them, and the horse controllers kind of explain how the group or the horses are herd animals. And
this is actually a scene that comes up pretty often, where the Visitor 3 shows up when there's other Yeerks there. Visitor 3 notices some animal in the background.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, that's an Andalite bandit. And all the other Yeerks are like, what? What? Really? You think so? Is it? Maybe?
Dude, well,
and Visitor 3's like, and then Visitor 3 doesn't immediately kill it. He's like, okay, let's kill it. But he's just waiting to see if it reacts. And
you gotta think about this from Visitor 3's point of view, though, dude. He's got bags under his eyes because he can't sleep at night, because every single animal he sees when he's on Earth, he's like, oh, Andalite bandit! Like,
yeah, I'm sure there's tons of times where he's like walking down, some other Yeerk conference room or something.
Right,
he sees like a bunch of like dogs on leashes by owners or something.
Yeah.
And he's like, Andalite bandits! Kill them now!
He's standing out in the alley on a smoke break, and he sees like a sparrow fly by, and he like jumps and squeals like a girl. Andalite bandit!
We're not seeing all the... Oh, not to mention, like, there's probably times where Visitor 3 just like comes down to Earth to go into like an animal shelter just so he can kill everything. That's nowadays how
I'm doing my part.
Yeah, if I kill all the animals, then I'll know when the Andalite bandits are here, because there won't be any other animals.
Yeah, so he makes the well, and it's kind of funny here because he's almost fooled for a second. He's like, we gotta kill these horses, and then Cassie just full on dumps right in front of him. Cassie is the one who will step up and take the dump when it's needed.
It's not a lot of young adult book series where you actually have the main character take a dump and it's like written about.
No, it almost never happens. In fact,
I would say
the bathroom activity is widely ignored by most media.
This actually might be the only young adult series in the world
where a narrating character talks about taking a dump.
Yeah, it happens in the first person's perspective.
Right. Well, even though she only says, I did what horses do,
Yeah, but
we still know what she was doing.
We know what was going on.
It fools Visitor 3 for a second. He's like, "Oh, I guess they are wild horses." We'll still kill them anyway. Yeah,
yeah.
But everybody makes it out okay anyway because it's still the midpoint of the book.
Yeah, they charge them and surprise them and somehow get away. Yeah, they outrun the Hork-Bajir. Even though Hork-Bajir are shown to be pretty fast in the scene. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, they are. And they even mention how fast they are. But Cassie, specifically, she's in this, racing horse, this stallion body. And she's like, I ain't taking shit from no Hork-Bajir.
I like how they reference, Cassie asks Rachel, because Rachel's had a Hork-Bajir morph before.
Yeah. That's a cool little throwback.
Yeah, it's a nice little side note that I don't think a lot of books would do something like that.
Well, they're pretty self-referential.
Yeah, I like that about the whole series.
Yeah, well, and, here Cassie uses this is where the front cover quote, never underestimate the power of a morph, comes into play here, because she full-on, kicks the Hork-Bajir, and she even mentions, oh, I got totally lucky, because I can't see a thing with these horse eyes.
Yeah.
But, she kicks its butt and everybody runs away. And as soon as they're out of the danger zone, Axe, oh, by the way, I was in the middle of telling you guys something. that thing back there is just a toilet.
It's a dome ship, Andalite dome ship toilet.
Portable,
like an older
toilet.
model.
They supposedly eject them into like suns and stars to destroy them, but this one apparently got off course and wound up conveniently on Earth.
Yep,
it's convenient.
Yeah, that's all interesting. And the way they react, the way the Animorphs react to this is the most interesting thing, because they say in the book what a lot of fans of the series say about this book in general. Like, the Animorphs themselves say, we've had a lot of important missions. We've done a lot of important things to stop the Yeerks. This isn't one of them.
Oh, yeah. They flat out admit, like, we don't know what the point of this book is. And I'll admit, like, when I got to this point, I was like, so why is there still going to be more book?
Yeah.
Why is this not the end?
Because this is how I thought of this book up to this point, where I was like, it's just a book. It's kind of funny. It's kind of just a big joke book. But once I got to this point, I was like, wait, there's still, 70 pages left. What's going on?
Yeah, I know. I have I guess, a way that I would change the book as well. But I'll go through that when I'm giving my actual review.
Yeah, so...
I was just going to say that that's where I thought the book could have ended, except that in the next chapter we get this scene where Cassie goes home. And there's good interaction here with her parents again, where they're trying to be stern with her about her, being out late and stuff, and they're totally about to figure her out or whatever. When she's like, I was out with Rachel and Jake, she kind of just lets it slip, and instantly the parents go into this whole embarrassing, kind of awkward.
They're about to have a sex talk with her, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of entertaining stuff. It's good stuff.
And it's even better, though, when Cassie leaves and kind of comes back and listens to them, and the parents are talking very cordially to each other about how they can't really punish her because she's a good daughter.
Yeah, and she already works so hard. They're like, we can't do anything more to her.
But we can embarrass her, and that's
right.
Punishment enough.
And yeah,
it's a good Cassie's parents scene, and a good Cassie scene too.
Well, it lets you know just more about how cool Cassie's parents really are. They're the kind of parents that are like, we have a cool daughter. We know we do.
Yeah, and after this, we have Cassie. She gets her, midnight snack or whatever, and goes upstairs. Right. She falls asleep, and this is where the book really turns around.
Well,
because
she didn't fall asleep, did she?
Yeah, she falls asleep because she wakes up at 3 a.m.
Oh.
She bolts upright at 3 a.m. So this is really where the book turns around, because up to this point, I liked how it started, I liked the whole Zone 91 stuff, but this book really petered off. And when the book itself said, hey, this book is worthless, it's a joke book, I lost all interest. I was like, okay, sweet, thank you for telling me that. But when she bolted upright and actually, in my mind, gave purpose to everything, it made the book more exciting for this instantly. This whole book was a roller coaster of emotions. At one point I was thinking I'm gonna really hate it. At one point I was like, oh, this is really turning around. I like the Cassie stuff, but there wasn't so much of it. And at this point, when she realizes that the Yeerks are not going to allow humans to have any proof of alien life, the whole mission just got way more serious, and it's actually an interesting mission.
Yeah, and it definitely answered my question of why there is still book.
Yeah, because it's the Animorphs shrug it off. They're like, oh, it's an Andalite toilet. What's the worst the Yeerks could do?
Yeah, and that was my
thoughts. They could kill and maim a ton of people to make sure, even if they don't know what it is, the fact that humans have alien technology, they don't want humans. And it ties into what makes me the most interested in this series, is the idea of what would aliens do in this kind of parasitic invasion of the body snatchers style of invasion. And this ties directly into that mythology of, okay, you found an alien toilet. That's cool. That's funny. Haha. We're going to kill all of you so this secret doesn't get out, no matter what the secret is.
Well, it's funny that the mission kind of turns into stopping the aliens, stop the humans who are trying to stop the aliens from finding out about aliens. Wait a minute.
And humans?
It's a doozy. It's going where I didn't see this ending coming. I had no idea where this was going. Truly.
You haven't read this book before?
No.
I have read this book before, and I don't remember any of this last part.
Wow, okay, well, this is an action-packed final sort of scene here.
Listen, I want to talk directly to the fans right now, all right? I'm talking to you guys, you listeners.
That's
I blame you completely for me not remembering this part of the book. Because you guys sit on the forums, and you sit on Reddit, and you go on and on about, oh, book 14, it's just a big joke book with the Andalite toilet. Like, I forgot about this whole part of the book that makes it way more interesting and engaging because of that common trope about this book and joke.
Yeah. I don't know. It's entertaining. I'll give you that much. So this is the Animorphs going back to the gardens because they know that the military base is planning on taking their field trip there because Cassie figured that one out.
Because military bases take field trips, apparently.
Yeah, well, they do special events and stuff.
Okay.
Especially when you think that their base is described as being such a boring place where nothing's really happening, though people think it is.
Boring alien technology they have a hold of.
Well, besides that, they can't even figure out what it is. I mean, what if they cracked it open, and they're, like, digging through Andalite excrement? Like, what is this mysterious substance?
They're tasting it and trying to figure out if it's a food source.
It's not toxic. You imagine, do you think it'd be like oh, no, I can't even say.
Why does this substance taste like hooves and grass?
No, I was going to say, do you think it'd be, like, full-on, like, turds, or do you think it'd be pellets?
That's an interesting point, actually. Because you've got the horse there, but you've also got the deer portion.
Right. Who knows?
Just giant, slimy pellets.
They're probably, like, Butterfinger BBs, which I don't think they make anymore, but I want some. Oh, those are so good. I think you can only get them at, like, movie theaters. No, they make Butterfinger bites.
Yeah,
I'm way off topic.
BBs are gone.
I know, and the BBs are the best. Well, anyway, we've got an action scene at the gardens of all places, which, gardens, it's definitely overutilized by the series, but not...
I'm glad to be back. I'm glad every time we have any kind of action scene at the gardens. Especially this time where we're not in the animal habitats, we're into the roller coaster section.
Right, yeah, because the gardens is conveniently, it's everything they need, ever.
I'm okay with it. Every single book, go back to the gardens.
I'm pretty sure they launch a rocket into space from the gardens in one book.
So yeah, they go back and they basically very quickly, probably a little too quickly for logical sense, figure out that if the Yeerks are attacking these people anywhere, it's going to be either on the log flume ride, which has a tunnel, like a dark tunnel, or the haunted house ride, which is mostly enclosed.
Oh, but...
I would assume a lot more places you could capture people in a theme park, but the book's trying to streamline it.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. However, you skipped over one important fact of the matter, is that when they arrived there, they thought they would be having, like, an hour or two to, kind of just scope the place out and figure out a plan. But because Cassie read the military time on the sign-up sheet incorrectly, they are now late, and everyone's already there. And
I liked that they were late to a really important thing. Like, it was just like such an offhand way to handle it, but it's something teenagers would do.
Right, yeah. But what I like here is that Marco gives this method of determining military time.
Subtract 12 hours.
Just subtract 12, yeah, which is something I never actually thought about.
Yep.
So,
all those years of Full Sail where we had to do everything in military time, and you're just now figuring that out.
Well, because I've converted back. But yeah, Marco's teaching me lessons here.
Yep.
So the team splits up, half of them go to the log ride and half of them go to the House of Horrors. And we follow Cassie, Marco, and Jake doing the log ride. And of course, out of convenience, they happen to run into Captain Torelli, and he immediately recognizes two of their voices, and is like, hey, you kids, we're gonna arrest you.
They jump out of the log ride, and I was actually scared this entire time. I was like,
it's a ballsy move.
I'm a big theme park person. You jump out of a log ride that has a big hill, oh my gosh, there's so many ways you could die in the water around.
I know, and that's why this made this kind of a cool scene, because they jump out of the log ride to evade this Captain Torelli, and they're slushing down the water track, and they end up, going down the huge drop off, which I imagine being like the Jurassic Park ride at Universal in Orlando.
Well, that one would definitely kill you.
Like that, they were like shooting down it.
This whole time, I pictured Splash Mountain and how that is, because I've actually had to get off that ride like several times because it breaks down all the time at Disney World. So like multiple times throughout my life of going there so many times, we've had to get off at the top of Splash Mountain, like walk down the stairs because it broke down while we were on it.
Oh, that sucks. Yeah, so they go down this huge drop off, and everybody makes it out okay, and Torelli, I guess, is like fumbling around in the water like a Three Stooges movie.
I love when they're still on the ride that they can't go anywhere for the most part, and Torelli's like, "You kids stay there," blah blah blah. At one point, Marco just resigns to his fate, and he's like, "Hey man, we're not on a military." Like, he turns around to Torelli. He's like, "Hey man, we're not on a military base. You can't really arrest us. I mean, we're just out in the public." And Torelli pulls out his cell phone, calls up Garden Security, and is like, "Code C9 Alpha 24. Get some guards out here."
Right. I like Marco's little quip when they get off this whole water ride thing. He goes, basically that was fun, Marco said, if you set aside the whole could have been crushed by a logboat thing.
Yeah.
It's good times. And then they rush on over to the House of Horrors.
Yeah, because they went through the tunnel at the log ride, and there was nothing there, so.
Yep.
So they go to the House of Horrors. They get into that ride.
Wait a minute. I want to point out here another neat thing that, is kind of a throwback, an Animorphs series trope here. We get a character summarizing the craziness of the mission they're on.
Marco specifically does it. Yeah.
No, this time it's Cassie, actually, who says, we have to figure out if the Yeerks are using the House of Horrors to kidnap and infest guys from Zone 91, even though we don't know if the Yeerks will be plain old human controllers or Hork-Bajir or whatever, I said. And in the meantime, I concluded, we have to avoid getting arrested by an Air Force captain who is frantically trying to protect the most secret place on Earth where they are hiding an Andalite toilet.
Yeah, and then after that, Marco says, like, "Can I just point out that this is insane? Like, totally insane."
Yeah, exactly. And then we've got, another character pointing out how crazy they're saying. And Marco specifically says, "Come along, my wacko friends."
No, Jake says that.
Oh, Jake says, Marco says...
Marco says we could be... this is Ben, our other friend. His greatest fear in life is that he's living... he's actually an insane person who's experiencing the world around him hallucinogenically. So that's what Marco brings up right now. He's like, they could be in an insane asylum and they're just experiencing this crazy missions and aliens and everything and not even know it, which is hilarious and terrifying at the same time. But so Jake's like, "Okay, well, come along, my wacko friends," and they run off to the Haunted Mansion,
the House of Horrors.
Yes, right. And this turns into a wacky cartoon chase because it's very Scooby-Doo-esque, where they run in. Kind of, yeah. They jump into one of the egg carts, because I pictured exactly like the Haunted Mansion. Oh. And the things spin around every once in a while when they're going through the ride and spook horror things. And when they spin around, there's Torelli in a cart with two guards next to him. Just like chasing them on the ride.
Right. Yeah. And then they spin into one room and there's just, I actually like this. I think this would be great as a cartoon even. Or real live action would be kind of weird. But awesome, as a cartoon it works cool because there's a grizzly bear and it's holding a hawk on one arm and a rattlesnake on the other, and we know who that is. And they're all in their battle morphs. And we also see Visor 3 and the Hork-Bajir are in there, and I imagine it like, there's like a strobe light going off, and they're all just slowly creeping through the House of Horrors, and everyone thinks it's all just part of the ride.
Now, I don't know if I buy Visor 3 being in a room with a grizzly bear, a snake, and a hawk that he's been attacked by multiple times at this point, and thinking, oh, that's probably just part of the ride.
Well, it sounds like it's a pretty confusing place, and they might not necessarily be able to see everything that's happening there, and he might not be able to see them because he's focusing on these humans.
I picture them standing side by side, and Visor 3 is just oblivious.
That could be too. Right. Then everybody's in their battle morphs, and they're fighting. And I thought this was actually really cool. This is a cool concept, and it would be really cool to see on screen of the rest of the team, Marco, Cassie, and Jake, all taking their battle morphs. But it's like in this horror house setting where there's all these, horror house sound effects. There's fog machines going off. A strobe light, I thought, would make it really cool visually, because every time the light flashes, they're in a different sort of state of the transformation.
It'd be like that scene in Kick-Ass where Hit Girl's running around killing a bunch of guys, and it's strobe lighting, and you can barely see what she's doing, but it flashes every moment.
Yeah, kind of.
Also, a similar scene in Dark Knight Rises where Batman's like running down a hallway and it's strobing light, and you only see him every 5 seconds.
Right, yeah. Well, it's a cooler visual scene that you have to really think about how cool it would look.
Yeah. And, of course, and this is, I don't know if I subconsciously wrote this into our 35mm project at Full Sail, but the fact that while this action is going on, this ridiculous action, there's still carts with tourists coming through.
Everyone's watching this. And in fact, it gets even more ridiculous.
It's exactly like Pirates of 9 to 5.
Right, yeah. That short you wrote.
Yeah.
Anyway, they all end up running. They take their battle, out of the horror house. And they're running through the gardens.
I want to read that book.
Axes trip to the horror house. They end up running straight into like the Macy's Day Parade going on in the gardens.
Well, no, this is like at Disney World and stuff. Every night before like fireworks and stuff, they have this huge parade that comes down Main Street and circles around. And it's a big theme park thing. This is my last note for the book. This is a big deal to me. I want to take a moment. So this parade comes down, and Cassie specifically talks about seeing Tweety Bird.
There's even more
Bugs Bunny
references.
Daffy Duck. She sees all these Looney Tunes characters. I would just like to say, in this book full of aliens and horses being taken over and all this stuff, this is the most unrealistic thing in the book. Looney Tunes has a contract with the Six Flags amusement parks. It's an exclusive contract. They can't be showcased in any other park in the world besides Six Flags. So the Guardians would have no way to get a hold of the rights to Looney Tunes characters for their park.
You know what? Maybe the Gardens also had its name changed, and it was just...
Except Six Flags don't have a zoological park.
Maybe it's a new version of Six Flags.
If the Gardens is anything, it's Busch Gardens, which has a zoo / roller coaster theme park.
Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Yeah,
they're probably all drinking beer.
I didn't make that connection until later in my life, by the way, that Busch Gardens is owned
Neither
by
did
Busch.
I until I went there and saw that it was like Anheuser Busch Gardens. Like, what?
Because when I think of kids, I think about getting blasted on roller coasters.
Right, while looking at some giraffes. That's kind of sad. Giraffe is one morph that I don't think they will ever experience in the book series. I don't think they ever do giraffe morph.
Are you sure? I don't know if
why would they? Why?
Maybe they need to get some leaves that the Yerks want at a really tall branch.
I don't know. I'm just saying, giraffe morph, make it happen.
I don't think they ever go koala either, or drop bear for that matter.
I don't know. I haven't read the book where Cassie goes to Australia, so I don't know. I don't know what.
Oh my gosh! I hope there is one.
What?
Is there one?
You don't know about that? Yeah, no. Cassie's Outback Adventure.
No, I don't know about that at all.
It's the one with Cassie morphing into a kangaroo on the cover.
Oh, okay. Well, now that makes sense, but I don't know if I've gotten that book yet. That might be one I'm missing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well,
Cassie I didn't know. Well, then she probably does morph a koala at some point or something.
It could happen. I don't know. I just want to point out how ridiculous it is here that they're out fighting like Hork-Bajir and all the animals. Cassie specifically mentions how she's a wolf and she's running through the crowd and people think she's a dog.
People are petting her.
Yeah. All the crowd here thinks that it's just part of the show. And again, it's pretty convenient.
I'm sorry. People do not just see a dog, especially a big dog, which she's not even a big dog. She's a full-on, full-bred wolf. People do not see a big wolf or any kind of dog bounding at them and assume the best and just start petting it. In any scenario, if a big, scary-looking dog runs towards any family member or anything, people get out of the way. They don't just let it through and start petting it.
Yeah, for the most part. Well, some people are really stupid too. Some kids in particular are really stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're it's not much of a battle really. It's more about the location than the fight.
Yeah, they're all pivoting around each other and just trying to get through the crowd and trying to run away.
Because Cassie manages to use her wolf nose to like track down the captain because Visor 3's got him and he's almost escaped, but Cassie stops him, rescues the captain. Visor gets away as usual, and nothing really happened.
I do like that the alien bug fighters, they were hidden on top of an alien ride.
Oh yeah, kind of a neat touch.
So they fly off.
Sort of like Men in Black.
Yeah, and there's even a kid and his grandpa or something who are like,
"Oh yeah,
that's not what alien spaceships look like. That looks fake." And the dad's like, "I was abducted by Skritna, and that's not what their ships look like." Right. He doesn't say that, but I'm assuming.
No, but it's like, yeah, they chose to end this whole scene on kind of a joke, and not even a joke between the main characters, a joke between some side characters.
Yeah.
Weird way to end it. But then there's just one last scene here where everyone's gathered at Cassie's barn to kind of discuss the story, discuss the book. They have their own review of the book here.
Yeah.
And they basically all just agree that, the Yeerks are probably going to keep going after Zone 91 in the toilet there, but I guess we'll just leave them. I don't know. It's nice to have a side project.
I think they're just saying that the Zone 91 guards, A, they're probably going to move the alien device at this point, and B, even if they do keep it there, they're going to ramp up their security, so the problem solves itself.
Yeah, I guess so. That's one way of thinking about it. I would think that the Yeerks are, crafty, and they could come up with something else. And they are kind of running the risk here of putting these people in danger again, but...
Well, they
can't really stop to think about, defending just small, particular...
Well, it does make sense, too, because Visor's not gonna run in there and steamroll the place, because that'd be a bigger indicator, attacking a government facility. That's too risky for their invasion purposes. So now I think it's just a matter of there aren't too many downsides to letting the Yeerks just play around with this base and try to figure things out.
No, like they said, it'll keep them distracted. And that's basically how this book ends. It's just this kind of joking, like, we didn't really accomplish anything, but we didn't die, and I think we had fun in some spots.
That log flume was all right.
Yeah. So, and that's just how this book ends.
Okay.
We are ready for reviews, sir.
Wondering which roller coaster has the highest top speed, or what exhibit is our guide's favorite in the park? Just ask them. They love to share their opinions and critical analysis to help you better plan your day.
Well, I'm sure that you and I will have kind of differing opinions here. I don't know.
Maybe. I have no idea.
So, having never read this book before, the only thing I knew going into this was that, they use horse morphs to sneak onto this Area 51 base and discover an Andalite toilet. That's all I knew. And I was pleasantly surprised. I had a good time diving into the unknown. This book, to me, harkened back to The Reaction. That's kind of what it felt like. I thought all the characters were written, exactly as they should be. Everyone was spot on. Even if Marco was acting like a dick, I still loved him. He's still a great guy. We had character development. We had, introductions of Cassie's parents, more and more about them. We had entertaining side characters. You could even go as far as to theorize a romantic subplot forming between Marco and Tobias and Rachel. There's a kind of love triangle you could read into.
And Mark Ruffalo.
If you're the majority of the fans, I assume, now that we're all older. We get new locations in the book. That's always kind of interesting to see. There's so many sci-fi references and just jargon. It's a book written for nerds like us. Really. This is what it caters to. So there's just a lot of good things. It's a fun book. It's entertaining. The bad things about it, if I would even call this bad, it is a very slow burn of a book. You don't really know where the plot's going at all. It's very meandering, and it's kind of hard to figure out for that reason. So much of, I would say 95% of this book all relies on complete coincidence. Even so, with writing that relies entirely on coincidence, I still enjoy the entire thing, and I didn't complain about it. It's obvious filler. It doesn't advance the story at all. You could dock it points for that if you wanted, but filler in a 60 book series is gonna happen. It's gonna occur, and when it does, I want it to be like this book because it was enjoyable. So yeah, that's really my review. I had a good time. For it being the first Animorphs book that I never read, I am now happy to say that I have added The Unknown to my list of known Animorphs books. So yeah, I am gonna give this one a 3 out of 4 Minneapolis Maxes.
3 out of 4?
Yes, a 3 out of 4. I think a 3 is a solid, average Animorphs book. That's what each Animorphs book should strive to be.
I'm just confused because you gave it a 3 out of 4 when we
or a
rate
3 out
on
of
a
5.
5
Sorry, 3 out of 5.
star rating.
I'm starting my own new rating. Nah, 3 out of 5.
I thought you were going for a 5, or not 5, but a 4 at that point. What you're talking
No. 4s are definitely reserved for stuff that is like necessary to the series.
So I was really conflicted with this book. This is the first review where I've been like, I don't like this book. I like this book. I don't like this book. I like this book. I was just reading throughout the entire thing. It didn't help also that I had a decent sized gap in between when I read like the first half and then the second half. I finished the second half like 20 minutes before before we started recording. So I was really conflicted. Didn't know what to do. Didn't know what I was going to give it until we talked about it more and went through it. And for the most part, what I like about this book is such a better Cassie book. Just much better writing for her. We're starting to see the character she should be. Her family is interesting. She's interesting. She's not as pompous as she's been before or beating you over the head with an environmental message. She's being a real character now. She's being a personality that we want to know more about and are interested in. On top of that, this book's concept, the whole Zone 91 and all the alien stuff and the idea of, humans being obsessed with this Andalite toilet and not knowing what it is. All these concepts are great. These are good stuff. Great stuff all around. And one of the big surprises for me was I forgot that after the Zone 91 alien toilet stuff is we have this whole great scene trouncing around rides at the gardens. Big fan of all of that. Great story points, all this stuff. Could have streamlined the middle section of the book a little bit. I didn't care for the racetrack at all. Didn't care. Thought it was a stupid subplot that they just ran off with for some reason. I think they just wanted to shoehorn it in for the sake of having them go to a Kentucky Derby or something. I don't know. Didn't like that. But for the most part, I like all the concepts and the outline of this book and where it's, the story it's trying to tell. I didn't really, until this point, I really didn't really come to the conclusion that while the writing is good in this book, it's not bad writing, really. It's just too in the middle. It's not mediocre or anything, but it's not that interesting of a story. Like you said, it doesn't serve too much of a purpose. I liked that they almost gave it a purpose with the fact that Cassie had this, illuminating idea that, oh my gosh, the Yeerks are going to do whatever it takes to keep this secret. But then they backpedal on that at the end. At the end, they're just like, okay, they'll figure it out. It'll fix itself. Or they don't give it much more thought. So if they would have had a really good ending as far as like actually solving something, this could have been a really cool turnaround for this book and made, justified the rest of it. But it's just overall, I would call the book meandering. It's very meandering. I don't know if that's just because they have a horse on the front, if that really put them in the mood to just trot along with a story, but that's what it was. It wasn't as good as the reaction in my mind. The reaction was more fun. It was funnier. There's not a lot of jokes in this. There's not a lot going on. There's just some good moments. So I was gonna give this a 3. I think I'm down to a 2. As many parts of this book that I liked, I wouldn't call it super bad or anything. It's a high 2. But yeah, it's 2 out of 5 phrases in Gallard for me.
Okay, I want to touch on something that you brought up, and this is a very good point. I forgot this in my review. This book made me feel like I knew Cassie now as more of a character, because she's turning into not necessarily like the brains of the group, because she still says really stupid things. Like, to get out of like social situations, she's not really the go-to person. But she's still also the one that most of the Animorphs depend on to make these kind of like calls for them. So she's becoming almost like the caretaker, like the mom of the group, kind of.
She's the conscience of the group. She's the moral compass.
Yes, kind of. But she's also like the one that they all know she's like the more mature and like honest and hardworking one of the group. So they rely on her for like things like that.
And I like that the other Andalites see her, or not the other Andalites, the other Animorphs see her that way, and yet she's still a scared, awkward girl. Like, we know her in her mind, that's what she's feeling, yet she still fills that role really well. That's a great, two sides of her that are going on all at once. That's well written.
Well, yeah, basically, I like this side of Cassie. I want to see more of this from Cassie. I want to see her becoming the moral compass, and not just in an annoying, oh, we gotta save the animals kind of way. Like, actually making big decisions and taking care of the group.
mean, that's one of the biggest plot points of the series, is her making a big decision and being right, and it completely separating her from the rest of the Animorphs. So, I mean, This is what we want to see out of Cassie. This is what makes her one of the most interesting characters in the entire series.
Well, yeah, and this is what made me excited for her next book, number 19, another one that I haven't read. So,
which is considered one of her best books, if not her best book.
Yeah. So I totally want to read that now. I'm very excited for that one. I'm also very excited for The Escape, coming next time on Thoughtspeak.
Yeah, so we can agree. For some reason, I mean, I think we both kind of liked the book, you especially.
I was just pleasantly surprised.
I can't critically give it anything higher than a 2. It's too all over the place.
Give it a 3, and I will defend it to my death, sir.
I hope that's soon.
Oh.
No, I'm joking.
All right, shall we segue to the trivia section?
There are some fun facts about the gardens that normal visitors don't usually get to hear. Don't worry, though. Your guides know all of the secrets this park has to offer, and they're dying to tell them to you.
Such a happy segue when we come into this trivia section here, and the very first bit of trivia is at the beginning of every book here. All books after The Unknown were dedicated to Applegate's son, Jake, as well as her husband and co-writer, Michael. Her son was born premature in 1997, and she worked on the Animorphs series at night in the lobby of the hospital where he was in neonatal intensive care. That is some depressing shite right there.
I didn't know that at all.
Applegate worked on these books, under such dire situation like that. I mean, my dog throws up on the carpet, and I'm like, I can't write today. I better sit here and make sure he's okay. So kudos. I mean, it's dedication. That's why Applegate is, where she is today. That's why she's such an amazing author.
I think that, dark situation probably informed the series a little bit too.
Definitely. Especially when we're going into The Escape. Another very, very emotionally charged Marco book.
That's all about a mother and her son.
Right.
Yeah.
Radio.
Well, I can't say. I mean, it sucks that she went through that. I didn't know anything about that. That's pretty terrible.
Yeah, and that's why every book from here on out will be dedicated to Jake and Michael.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
what else you got?
Stuff.
Is there more?
Yeah, there's more. Oh yeah, there's more. It is assumed that the horse featured on this cover is Minneapolis Max, and not the horse that Cassie acquired as her first morph, which would make this the 5th book to feature a cover morph that was not acquired in the book, despite not fitting Max's description. So here's the point where we get to make fun of the marketing team again, or at least the cover art team.
Yeah, because
they didn't even get the right type of horse. This is like in book 2 with the cat.
Well, I always assumed that this was the horse that she had, the horse morph she had all along, because it's described as like a brown horse earlier in the series, I thought.
Oh, I know. Yeah, it very well could be. But, by all accounts, it should be her second horse morph. And, it's like...
Isn't that ridiculous that she has 2 horse morphs?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, they didn't go into, how does she choose between which one she picks,
Well,
obviously she just pictures Minneapolis Max. But they could have made it a little bit more scientific than that. She could have just turned into, a blank white horse and then, filled in the color. Oh, yeah, I gotta be...
Well, no, they're 2 very different types of horses, too. Her horse she has on her farm is probably more of a country, farm horse. Whereas
that would have been better for sneaking onto the base.
Yeah, that would have made more sense. The fact that they went and got race horses makes no sense whatsoever.
Well, yeah, I guess that's true, because they immediately point out, oh, yeah, we gotta make them look dirty.
And that's why you get the 2 out of 5.
Also, just want to say, Minneapolis represent.
Minneapolis Max.
Could not be a better name for this horse. There's, the standard, the front cover quote, never underestimate the power of a morph. The inside front cover quote, which nobody really cares about, I certainly don't care about them, is born to run. Who cares? This is the first book in which all 6 of the Animorphs acquire the same new morph. Not necessarily. That's not technically true.
That's not true at all, yeah.
Because they acquire different horses.
The same horse.
Yeah. Seropedia, fix your shit. This is wrong.
And there's tons of other horses, or there's tons of other books where they all acquire the same animal. Well, no, this is just saying this is the
first book in which all 6 of the Animorphs acquire the same new morph.
I'm calling shenanigans on that.
It's not technically true, because they're not all doing the same horse. So sorry.
Shenanigans.
Now, if you say that this is the first book where all of them acquire the same species of morph, hey, there you go. Fix it, Seropedia.
I still call shenanigans. They've all been cockroaches before.
Besides they didn't
Tobias.
All get them in the same book, though, did they?
No, Tobias didn't. It's because it's Tobias. He's messing up everything.
Oh, yeah, Tobias screws up the format, right? Zone 91 is an obvious reference to Area 51. We've got Gondor Industries, which is the name the
Gardens.
The military uses at the Gardens. Is a likely reference to the Third Age Kingdom of Gondor from The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King. K. Applegate frequently used similar names from the LOTR series in Animorphs book series.
Like that one time they went to Aragorn, Enterprises, and fight there.
Oh, I don't remember that. Well, that was in book 7, wasn't it?
I just made that up. What are you talking about?
Oh, okay.
Just like the time they went to Gandalf restaurant.
Here is where we settle this owl morph debate, by the way, because it is said that every Animorph but Tobias uses an owl morph. However, only Cassie and Rachel acquired an owl morph, and that was back in The Capture. The others never use owl morph again and act as if they do not even have it. And this is brought up because they're talking about how they should fly somewhere.
I'm going to put a stop to this right now, okay? What? We don't need to have this discussion ever again. Just because the book didn't show them get Allomorphs doesn't mean anything. Especially now that we've seen them all use Allomorphs. I don't know why there's any discussion on this. That people would just get their panties in a twist because we didn't have a whole 7 pages devoted to them all walking up slowly to an owl and, getting it. Who cares?
Well, no. I was going to put this debate to rest as well, because it's brought up because Jake says we could use Allomorph. That's it. And I think he was just saying that more theoretically, obviously if they had decided to go through with the Allomorph plan, they would have gone and acquired them. So I think, maybe they don't have Allomorphs, but...
No, they do. We just didn't see it. And that was just a weird phrasing by Jake. Nothing more than that.
Well, that could be it too. Either way, end of trivia.
Okay. All right, well, let's jump straight into emails.
The Gardens is the most successful park of its kind because of visitors like you. Filling out a feedback card is the best way to ensure your voice is heard, and any critique is encouraged to better improve our attractions and your future stays with us.
What have we got on the email-oscope today?
Well, our first email comes from Connell Sathi.
Is that an Amalite?
I don't know. We're missing a third name if that's the
I know.
Connell Sathi writes, I'm probably horribly mispronouncing that, so I'm sorry. Hey, Mitch and Coleman. First off, I love your podcast. I'm similar to you guys in that I'm a guy in my mid-20s who grew up reading Animorphs as a kid. Like you guys, I skipped a few books when I read the series growing up, but a couple of years ago, I found the ebooks and actually read the entire series, beginning to end. It was so much fun to read, and I didn't realize how dark and mature the series was. Haven't we all? I had a couple of comments. Not sure if you're aware of this, but when Kay Applegate was writing the book, she actually had a discussion forum on Scholastic's site where readers could ask her questions about the series. I remember there were a ton of questions on the site that Applegate responded to. My sister and I would actually spend hours reading her answers. Unfortunately, I actually don't remember the majority of Applegate's responses, though I do remember a couple. One person asked Applegate why the Animorphs couldn't morph dinosaurs after Megamorphs number 2, and she admitted the fact that there's not really a good reason other than that she didn't want them to morph dinosaurs in later books. Another person asked whether Andalites could swim, and she just responded, throw her axe in a lake and find out. Though these responses are not really that enlightening, I do remember her actually getting deeper into how Z-Space worked, morphing technology, and information on the different alien species. He goes on to talk about he just finished book number 13. He wanted to talk about since he is in hawk morph, that's his main form, does he have a lifespan of a hawk or does he have a lifespan of a human? I think this is solved later in the series. Doesn't it say something that he's actually like way too old at the end of the series for a normal hawk or something?
I don't. My memory's not that great on that.
Yeah, and he asked the question that we've been asked multiple times: the fact that Rachel's going to continue to get older and his morph's going to stay at an 11, 12-year-old kid.
Right.
But he says, I love hearing your guys' thoughts about each book, so really appreciate you guys for making this podcast. Keep them coming. P.S. I really hope they do an Animorphs movie / a better TV show / a new spin-off series, and if they don't, you guys should totally do it. Smiley face.
Oh, good. Well, at least we've got one person's support.
Yep.
Now all we need is Scholastic.
We need a Twitter campaign / hashtag for us to write a sequel series to the book.
Hashtag bringing it back.
Hashtag Rachel comes back.
Well, that's cool. I'm glad that people are finally getting around to thinking that we're useful for things. Because, yeah, we've got ideas, man.
And we're not just, fans of the series. We're professional writers. So, just throwing that out there. So, our next email comes from Richard Bradley, who subject lined it, Awesome Podcast.
Sweet.
Hey guys, I listen to a lot of podcasts at work, but I really look forward to yours. I love the casual nature of your reviews. It feels like I'm just hanging out with old friends who want to nerd out over childhood sci-fi, which I suppose is exactly what the podcast is. One thing I would love to hear more of is what you two would personally change in each novel. It sounds like you both have experience in film or writing in general. We do. I think you could add a segment where you propose changes to each novel that address your complaints, like ways to reduce reliance on coincidence and Deus Ex Machinas, or a discussion of scenes that didn't work and what could have fixed them. Regardless, keep up the good work, Richard. P.S. It's not easy to find this email. Maybe I'm just oblivious, but is it on the Meet Your Host Buddies page? Okay, to be fair, with the email, I give it out at the end of every single episode.
Well, you know what it is? It's because it's not... Well, no, it is written. It's right on every... Do people actually read the website? I mean, I put a lot of effort into typing those things every week. People, read the website, because our email address is on there. I promise you it's on there, but you gotta do some reading. Really.
Yeah, we put it in a lot of places. I don't blame him. He found it somehow, so...
Well, yeah, it's not impossible. If you listen to the podcast, we say it.
This is true.
So that's it for emails. Awesome.
Mm-hmm. That's all we got.
Cool. Well, I would just like to run through a few Reddit comments, and that should be it.
Sure.
Do we have a segue for that or not?
Segue for... No, it's part of this.
Okay, cool. Friend of the show, Narrative Casualty, over on the Reddit page, says, "Oh my god, it's Christmas. It's just a shame I have to wait until tomorrow to hear it." Wow. What a cliffhanger. Did he listen to it yet? I don't know. He might not have made it to the next morning. He might have died out of excitement for the new episode. It could be. Come back to us, Narrative Casualty. Tell us what you thought.
Tell us you're okay.
Good old friend of the show, jacking myself off, says, I liked Nate. I actually wish he would have talked more, in fact. He seemed a bit quiet during many parts of the book summary until he was specifically asked a question. Yes, to be fair, like us, Nate was, that's his first podcast ever. And, even us, we were quite awkward and jilted back then. So we kind of wanted to guide the podcast episode in the right direction. I thought we utilized him, at least a decent amount.
Yeah, I was calling on him a lot just because I actually was interested in hearing what he had to say about a lot of the stuff, so.
Yeah, and jacking myself off goes on to say, regardless, the guest visiting host thing worked just fine, and I'd be happy to see Nate come back. Book 14 is cool. Thanks, jacking myself off. Stuff just sort of happens, and it's all sort of dumb, and then the Animorphs all look at each other at the end and shrug like, well, that was pointless. Hilarious. You know what? That's a very good summary. That could have been...
That could have been our whole summary and review.
Yeah. Reddit user Pigax? Pigax? I don't know how you pronounce that, sir. Mr. Pig. This episode really worked. I think having a third voice improved the dynamic. I also like the perspective of someone who is mostly ignorant of the series and is not looking at it with nostalgia. Hopefully future episodes that focus on books Mitch and Coleman haven't read will have a similar approach. The new segues and intros were nice. The length is much more appropriate, and they were amusing. Maybe in a dozen episodes when they're looking to shake things up, they could record new segments that seem like sharing propaganda. Somebody's reading our minds. Somebody's thought reading.
I'd just like to say, damn you, Mr. Pig.
Well, I could have just not read the comment.
You could have. I could edit this whole thing out, but I'm not going
Although you got on here and you replied to him, so.
Yeah, basically, that's 100% what we're going to do. Once we get to the next, switchover point or whatever we want to do. Whenever we want to redo these opening segues and intros and all that stuff, I want the next one to be sharing propaganda. Or like a commercial for the sharing.
We've got more ideas. We got a bag of tricks.
Yeah, that's just one of them. So,
we've got more.
Maybe at the end of the series we'll have some kind of military shout out, or maybe just Jake being like, "Look, we're here. We're at the end of it. This is where we're at. Open warfare. Jump into Thoughtspeak."
Friend of the show, Craven Ergeist, a frequent commenter and emailer, has a lot to say, and boy, do I love reading his opinions because. Such detail. Wow.
Yeah, I would say everybody needs to jump on reddit.com/r/Animorphs, see our posting for our episode for the Andalite Chronicles, and just read the 3 postings that Craven Ergeist got on there. And it's just a great discussion. I mean, he should have a blog or something, or join us as a guest host. Because he has
Craven Ergeist, guest co-host.
Yeah, because he has a lot to say. And some insightful stuff on the Andalite Chronicles, and pretty much every other episode we've done.
Yeah, too much to go through here. I'm sorry. I love what you're doing, and I want you to keep doing it, and I want you to do it more often. But give us a soundbite version for.
Yeah, can you put like just one in parentheses, just 3 or 4 sentences that we can read on the air?
Put the really good stuff that you want read on air. Put that in, put it in Thoughtspeak brackets or whatever, and we'll read that.
If anyone puts anything in Thoughtspeak brackets, we're reading it.
Yeah. Reddit user Matthias Farland says, "Yay! I've been waiting for this one. Got into the podcast about 2 weeks ago, and it started me going back through the series. Can't wait to hear your take on the Andalite Chronicles and its timey-wimey ridiculousness. I appreciate Doctor Who references."
We all do. Everyone.
So does Matthias Farland. And last one that I'll point out is from JRandomHacker172342. It was interesting to hear both of you discuss which chronicles you like most. I think HBC, Hork-Bajir Chronicles, is my favorite, and neither of you have read it. I'll definitely be waiting for that episode. Also, I may be biased, but I'm a fan of the intro and segues. Way to go. So this starts a whole thread of people kind of questioning when we're going to read the Hork-Bajir Chronicles, and that's somebody says it was released right after the David trilogy.
That's what they said. I thought it was earlier.
I thought it was a little bit later.
Oh, really? Okay. Basically,
maybe. I'm not too sure. I haven't read it, though.
As we've said before, and as we've been doing with Andalite Chronicles and Megamorphs, we're going to read them based on their release date. So we're chronologically going through the books based on their releases. That's how we're doing it. And that's how we'll continue to do it until we go crazy and just do a bunch of random episodes. Throw an Alternamorphs in there.
We'll see. So that's it for Reddit comments as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's it for the show. That's it. That's all we got.
That's all we got. I would just like to say, join us next time when we read The Escape. Excellent. I guess I'm biased already. It's a Marco book. Who isn't biased going?
It's a great Marco book, though. Anything that goes way hardcore into him and his mom's relationship.
Yeah. As soon as you read the back where it's like, there's a wand, she's coming back, it's going to be a book that you can't skip.
And there's sharks and Lyrons. I mean, I've been making jokes about Lyrons in almost every single episode up to this point. So.
Yeah.
This is where we're at.
That's right. It took me a while to... I totally forgot about the Lyrons.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
So I have not. So that's next week's episode.
Well, as I've mentioned numerous times, I'm in the middle of reading it. I'm a couple chapters in. Super excited.
I'll probably start tomorrow. So that's when I'm going to jump into it. But
good deal.
Just want to thank everybody for listening. You can find more ways to listen to the show by going to Thoughtspeakcast.com. Follow us on Twitter, just like Michael Grant, co-author of the series, has done.
He's following us?
Morphcast. Yeah. Michael Grant follows us on Twitter. Kay Applegate has not followed us on Twitter yet. Hoping that's coming any day now.
She's playing hard to get.
She is. We're gonna get her. So you can join.
Make it happen. Make it happen,
join
fans.
Michael Grant and possibly Kay Applegate by following us on Twitter at Morphcast, or like us on our Facebook. You can also send us your thoughts on an upcoming episode by emailing us at thoughtspeakcast@gmail.com.
It's not even that hard. It's our website at
email.
gmail.com. Like, come on, people.
We try to make it easy for you. And like we've done tonight, we will most likely read it on the air, unless it's really annoying or negative. No, that's not true. We'll read those too.
I find those funny. Really.
I do too. Finally, reviews on iTunes. We've got 13, and they're excellent reviews. Big fans of the reviews.
We have 12 stars, or starred 5 stars, and only about 5, I think, actual word reviews, which is kind of sad when you think the podcast has been around a little while now, and we've got some pretty decent numbers to report, and I know that we could have more reviews.
Here's the thing, guys. I know at this point you guys have already checked out. Who knows who's still listening to us at this point? But we get a substantial number of people listening to this right now. But we're trying to start a revolution to bring Animorphs back. We want more discussion. We want more people talking about it. We want to just spread the word that this series should be taken seriously, and it's awesome, and it needs to come back. So I'm not saying our podcast is going to do that or anything, but literally, if we get featured on iTunes with how many Animorphs fans there are out there, how many of you have joined because you used to read the series or you just want to, kind of relive it and everything. I've heard that over and over again by listeners. If we get enough reviews on iTunes and they feature us as a new and upcoming podcast, which isn't that hard to do, you just need reviews and you need more people listening in. We go from hundreds of listeners to thousands of listeners just from being featured on iTunes. So it's
a good deal. It's help that we need.
It's not that hard to do. It's just a matter of we need more reviews.
Just get the hell on there and write a little review. What's the deal? It's not hard.
You don't even need to write a review. We appreciate the written reviews, and if you write a review, we'll read them on the air. But if you just go there and put a star rating, just go over there, click. I don't even care if you give us 1 star. Just go there.
I do. Don't ruin it. We got all 5-star reviews right now.
I know. But I want them to just be honest. I'm
saying, mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Go on there, give us a fair review, whatever you think we deserve, and it might get us featured and get just tons and tons of more Animorphs fans reliving the series alongside of us. So
I only want 5. If somebody gives us anything less than a 5-star, I'm going to be mad.
No, shut up. We got to be fair about it.
I'm just saying. I'm not going to be happy.
Because of you right now, they're going to give us a 4-star just to rub it in.
Well, great, because I'm going to bitch about it on the next episode if they do.
This is why we can't be featured, because of you, Mitch.
I'm just saying, we're 5-star material here.
We are an adequate podcast. I hope we entertain you. keep coming back, and we'll keep putting these out. So
until next time, until we need to make an escape.
Whoa! I hope the next episode is an escape to your work week.
Oh God, I gotta escape to work tomorrow. Yeah, that's gonna be fun.
Yeah, just like a normal person who works every day.
Yes, you and me.
Anyway, so we appreciate you guys listening, and if you're still listening, what are you doing? Are you just waiting for the outro? I mean, it's good, but I mean, why are you still here? I don't get it.
No, listen. Figure out that Swahili, guys.
It's not that hard. I told you what language it is.
Oh, true.
Okay. Well, yeah, we hope you guys have a good time, and we enjoy putting these out. We enjoy talking about Animorphs. We enjoy talking about them with you, our listeners.
I enjoy it so much I want to do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all the time we have for you.
That's all we got. So join us next week when we talk about The Escape. That's it for this week's Thoughtspeak. My name is Coleman.
And my name is Mitchell.
Still Mitch. Oh.
Mitchell. ELL.
Mitchell.
There's 2 syllables. Last syllable, really hard for some people.
Have a good night, everybody.
On behalf of everyone here at the Gardens, we hope you've enjoyed your stay and welcome you to come and see us again soon. Or, as they say on the Serengeti, Tafadali emtu, kupata jambo hili nje ya kichwa yangu.